going on, and it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
How are you? We've got to the end of the week, 6 o'clock, Friday the 14th of January. Breakfast on GB News. Eamonn and Isabel here for you.
We are live this morning right across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. Thanks for joining us.
Coming up on the programme today, is the party over? It appears not. Boris Johnson's staff are accused of holding two more of them in Number 10 on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral when the country was in national mourning.
The Duke of York has been stripped of his military titles and his royal patronages. Will be live in Windsor shortly.
Now, a pothole, there you are, and there is an actual day devoted to potholes. Tomorrow is National Pothole Day. What's being done about them? You know, a lot of people will say, oh, that's funny, that's light. Not if your car axle goes down one of them, it isn't. We're going to be talking to a man who single-handedly leads the campaign in the United Kingdom to have potholes filled in. His name's Mark Morell, also known as Mr. Pothole on social media, about this plague on our roads. So we want to know from you, why aren't things being done about them, or the things that are being done about them aren't effective? They're just simply not effective.
Has your car been ruined by one of these? How much did it cost you? And what is being done about it? Send us your pictures and share your pothole horror stories.
You know, I think it is dangerous. I really do think it's dangerous. And also, you know, people like me, my back's tender at the moment. You go along the most ordinary road, and it doesn't have to be a gaping big hole, but I mean, the roads aren't good. They're just not good. Why is that? Plus, a multi-billion-pound legal claim has been launched against Facebook, which could see more than 44 million people compensated over what are termed unfair terms and conditions. No, I don't understand what all that's about either, but we'll be finding out what this could mean for you watching this morning or listening.
Listening as well, don't forget that. Do join in our discussions this morning. Email us, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet @gbnews.
So, amongst the many things we're talking about today, potholes will feature very heavily, and of course, it will depend on you at GB News. Send us the pictures and your stories about all of that. Partygate scandal continues to grow. Just, you know, we just think, well, that's everything, but it's not. Two more revelations this morning.
Yeah, that's right. Fresh allegations now. Two further rule-breaking parties that took place at Number 10 the night before the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Tom Harwood, who's at Downing Street for us this morning. Things are going from bad to worse for Number 10, aren't they? Of course, everybody just remembers the iconic and tragic pictures of Her Majesty the Queen sat all alone following those lockdown rules for the funeral of her husband, Prince Philip. But the night before, Number 10 were living it up, breaking all the rules, according to the latest allegations.
That's right. I'm standing here in what seems to be the most party-friendly street in the country, really. It's quite extraordinary, the number of parties that we've heard about now emanating from the building behind me. Of course, this was April 2021, these latest two allegations in The Telegraph, when the country was under stage 2 of lifting of those lockdown restrictions, almost a year on from that initial allegation of those drinks in the garden. It's an interesting situation, of course. This was one of these parties was alleged to be the leaving do of James Slack, the former spokesman for Number 10, someone who's now working at the Sun newspaper. Interesting that it was The Telegraph that revealed this particular drinks do, and the revolving door that often happens between Number 10, between government and journalism. But this is quite an extraordinary set of allegations. Apparently, one member of staff left with a suitcase to go down to the Co-op on the Strands to pick up as much alcohol as possible and bring it back inside number 10, at which point there was partying, there was a special advisor DJing, allegedly, in the basement of number 10, and partying went on into the early hours. There's even an allegation that one of the children's swings in the garden of this building was broken by a drunken staffer.
So the remit of Sue Gray's investigation just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And yet, do we have any faith that her findings will actually lead to any action?
Well, I think one of the most significant points about Sue Gray's report, which we were expecting will be released early next week, although with more allegations piling up, that may well be delayed. What the Conservatives are certainly hoping about this extensive, no-holds-barred report is that it will be a bit of a bloodletting, that it will flush out all of these allegations, all of these alleged parties. And the idea, I suppose, is that then there's no more drip, drip, drip of these stories thereafter, because what we've seen is that as soon as the news agenda moves on, even just a little bit, yet another party story comes out. Yesterday we heard some really quite shocking allegations about Chinese spying within Parliament, getting close to the heart of government, and just as people were starting to talk about that, bam, another party story. Of course, these drinks in the garden were ones. There was another party story that moved on from those Christmas party stories. We've had a drip, drip, drip of all of these stories coming from the building behind me, and the enormous hope of the government is that this one extensive independent inquiry will be able to put a stop to it.
And it's very bad timing, Tom, that the poor Prime Minister has to isolate after a family member testing positive for COVID. Does that necessarily prevent him from making pronouncements today or being available for quotes?
Well, number 10 has been pretty vague over exactly who it is who has tested positive in the Prime Minister's family, and the rules around and the rules he has to abide by as a result of that. It's interesting, he may not be under formal isolation, but may be wanting to reduce his social contacts. We have not yet had clear clarification on that issue, although if he is in formal isolation, of course, he has to remain there for a full 5 days now, as of the announcement yesterday, reducing the isolation requirement from 7 to 5 upon negative testing.
But of course, that's only if he tested positive, and at the moment it's only a family member. And as I understand the rules, if you're triple vaccinated, you can carry on and go to work and school and whatever else it might be. I might be wrong, but that's my interpretation of the rules. But these things are open to interpretation, it seems.
Indeed.
By number 10, Tom Harwood, thanks very much indeed.
Here are this morning's headlines. Let's get into the news. Virginia Giuffre has praised a court ruling allowing her civil sex case against the Duke of York to go ahead. She transmitted on Twitter that she was pleased with the decision and that she's glad she'll be able to, in her words, expose the truth. Prince Andrew denies all the allegations against him. This is after the Duke was stripped of his HRH title and his honorary military titles as well.
The Foreign Office has raised concerns with the Chinese ambassador after MI5 warned an agent's been interfering in UK politics. China has denied the allegations, saying it had no need to buy influence in any foreign parliament.
Meanwhile, a parliamentary committee has said public money should be withheld from cricket unless it can clean up its act on racism. This is after Azim Rafiq gave an emotional testimony in November last year about the racist abuse he said he faced during 2 stints with Yorkshire County Cricket Club.
25 charities have written to the Prime Minister calling for urgent action to tackle the energy bill crisis. Charities, including Save the Children and Age UK, are warning that emergency funding is needed as fuel poverty could increase from 4 to 6 million households.
6 members of Insulate Britain are due to be released from prison after they broke an injunction preventing them from protesting on roads. The group are amongst 10 people who were jailed for breaking the government's injunction on the M25.
And pothole-related breakdowns have reached a 3-year high. The RAC says it's received over 10,000 call-outs for problems caused by damaged road surfaces last year. That's 19% more than in 2020.
A multi-billion-pound lawsuit's been launched in the UK against Facebook. If successful, the class action could see 44 million people compensated over unfair terms and conditions. Facebook's parent company, Meta, is accused of using its market dominance to force terms which allowed the company to generate billions from users' personal data. If you're going out or you have your newspaper delivered, do you have your newspaper delivered?
I don't. I use my phone. I've got my papers on my phone. Yeah.
We are very rare as a family then. We have newspapers delivered, and it's one of the joys I have in life to
sit and go through them.
Sit and go through the newspapers, but you know, I know it's a dying thing. People
well, I'm still paying for my papers, so I'm not killing off the papers, but
the experience.
The experience, yeah. Well, I do have the joy of doing it here.
Yeah, doing it here. And here, the Times leads with the news that the Duke of York has been stripped of his military titles. You see, this is the thing, Isabel. Has he been stripped, or has he volunteered to give them up? I mean, could he have said, no, I'm not doing this? Or, you know, has he said, look, yeah, good idea, I'll hand these over?
Well, I think it's ambiguous, and I think it's probably deliberately so. We'll probably never know exactly whose decision it was. Was it Prince Andrew's, or was it indeed perhaps his brother's, Prince Charles's? He's going to take over the monarchy in due course. Or did the Queen have to take this very difficult decision to say enough is enough to her favourite son?
Well, here it is in this special anniversary year for her. The Express suggesting that the Queen has cast Andrew adrift for the sake of the monarchy.
Thrown out, says The Sun, Prince Andrew will fight the US civil lawsuit against him as a private citizen.
Telegraph says the Duke of York has been exiled from royal life.
The Daily Mail's reporting that Prince Charles demanded Andrew's exile from the royal family.
And other news in the Mirror, they're reporting that the Downing Street Partygate scandal continues. 2 more parties being reported, one of them the night before Prince Philip's funeral.
The Independent's talking about the Chinese agent who infiltrated Parliament and attempted to influence MPs.
Russia has said talks with the US and NATO in Geneva and Brussels have failed to address its security concerns, with some 100,000 Russian troops still on the border with Ukraine.
OK, we're going to talk now a little bit more about Prince Andrew's military titles and royal patrages, which, as we were just debating, have either been returned or have been stripped from him by the Queen. Let's speak to Ellie Costello. She is live for us outside Windsor Castle, where, of course, we know Her Majesty is residing at the moment. This has been a big story for the royal family. Tell us the latest.
Good morning, Isabel and Eamonn. Well, Prince Andrew was pictured outside here yesterday after having long conversations with his mother, the Queen, here at Windsor. And very shortly afterwards, we had that statement, that rare statement from Buckingham Palace. And from that statement, it became clear that Prince Andrew was losing his military titles, his royal titles, and would be returning them to the Queen. We also know that he will no longer be partaking in any public royal duties. Those duties will be divvied up between other members of the royal family. And we know, too, that he will be no longer referred to as His Royal Highness in any official capacity. And he is also said in this statement that he will be defending this civil case in New York as a private citizen. And that civil case is brought by Virginia Giuffre, which alleges that she was sexually assaulted by Prince Andrew on 3 occasions when she was a teenager. They are, of course, claims that Prince Andrew denies and has always denied. But Judge Kaplan in New York on Wednesday, he gave the green light for this civil case to go ahead. And that has been the catalyst that started off these events. And there was an open letter yesterday from 150 veterans from across all of the armed forces. And they wrote that open letter to the Queen, talking about their upset and anger. That's a direct quote, that Prince Andrew still held those honorary military roles, and they wanted them to be removed. And the palace at first didn't have any comment on that open letter yesterday, but by last night it was clear that those positions were untenable for the Duke of York, and it was untenable that he would stay in those positions. Some say it's overdue, some say that this process had to take place. But to be honest with you, Isabel and Eamonn, Prince Andrew has been in limbo for a long time after what many of us would describe as a pretty disastrous interview with BBC Newsnight in 2019. He had already stepped back from public duties, but he was remaining up until this point in his military roles, and he had patronages for about 100 charities as well. He was leading 8 British regiments, including as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, and they had been probably the most vocal about wanting him removed as Colonel. Traditionally, if things were normal, Prince Andrew would have paraded with them at the Trooping of the Colour in June, and especially he would have been partaking with them in many events for the Queen's Jubilee year. They did not want him to be alongside them. But I think, Isabel and Eamonn, this shows that the palace certainly thinks that this scandal is beyond the repair, the reputation of Prince Andrew. And that's what this move is all about. They want to distance themselves from the scandal, from the embarrassment, and ultimately they want to protect the Windsor name, the Windsor brand, and our Queen, a 95-year-old woman in her Jubilee year.
Ellie, thank you very much indeed. You talk about goings on at the palace. As someone who knows better than most of us what goes on there. Royal commentator, former press secretary to the Queen, Dickie Arbiter, on the line now. Oh, there he is. I was told you're on the line, but what does that mean nowadays?
Exactly.
It means it could be a picture, it could be anything. Nice to see you, Dickie. Listen, first of all, there's so much to get through. Of course, the Duke of York, he denies, he protests his innocence, he denies the charges against him here. The first thing, Dickie, I want to get clear. One press release says he's given up his titles. Other reports are he's been stripped of his titles. How would you describe it?
Actually, they've been returned to the Queen, and you can choose stripped, given up. Whatever way you look at it, they have been returned to the Queen. He is no longer colonel of a number of regiments. He's no longer commodore of a couple of naval organisations.
But here's my point, Dickie. Here's my point about this. Right, it's not as if he didn't see this coming. As we say, he denies all charges against him. But surely, if he was being advised correctly, surely the better look was to say, I will step back from public life while all this provides a distraction, that he should have been taking the initiative on this. What's your view on that?
Well, my view on that is that any normal person would take the initiative and would step back. Yes, he stepped back because he had to, following that disastrous Newsnight interview, and he's been doing nothing for the past couple of years except seeing lawyers. As far as the regiments and the military are concerned, there was an element of arrogance that he thought he could claw his way back onto public duty and thereby retain the various military roles. His position is untenable, and it became even more so. And the writing really was on the wall with Judge Kaplan's decision this past week in going ahead with the case and throwing out Andrew's legal challenge that anything signed between Virginia Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein in 2009 was not valid, and he was not a part of that deal. So any normal person would have said, yeah, OK, I'm in this situation. I will hand back these various military honours. But he didn't, because he really believed that he could come back.
So when Harry and Meghan were basically leaving the royal family, there was this emergency summit held at Sandringham with Prince Charles, Her Majesty the Queen and Prince William. Do you imagine that a similar sort of summit took place yesterday, perhaps, to decide all of this? I mean, there was this growing pressure throughout the course of the day, wasn't there? A statement from the army read, "We are therefore asking, in light of this judgment from New York, that you take immediate steps to strip Prince Andrew of all of his military ranks and titles, and if necessary, that he be dishonourably discharged." And this was signed by a number of members of the military yesterday.
It was, yes. And as far as any summit is concerned, yes, as far as Harry and Meghan are concerned, there was a summit at Sandringham. The participants were the Queen, the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge. Yesterday's decision really came about as a result of a family meeting between the Queen, the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Cambridge. But I doubt that they were there. I think this was just a one-to-one between the Duke of York and his mother, the Queen. And she spelled out to him what is going to happen and what indeed has happened, that he is no longer holding any military appointments. But, the difference between the two is that Andrew, yes, stripped, if you want to use that word. It is dramatic, and yes, he has been stripped. Harry virtually resigned his positions because he was told in no uncertain terms, you're either a member of the royal family and you benefit for all the royal trappings, or you're not a member of the royal family, you go off and be financially independent, but you don't benefit from any of the royal baubles or anything like that. So Harry choosing to leave the royal family, become financially independent, he effectively resigned his military appointments. Yeah. Andrew didn't resign his military appointments. They were taken away from him.
Yeah, but, the big difference here, let all of us think about our own families. If I would find it very difficult to tell one of my brothers something adverse, or that they weren't going to do this. They would find it very difficult to take that instruction from me, let alone your nephew telling you what to do. It appears yesterday that maybe then what you're saying, Dickie, it was just left to the Queen, his mum, to break the news to him. But inside now, the fractures, the relationship now inside the family, it must be quite intense.
It is intense because at the end of the day, Andrew has let the family down. He's always let the family down, except in the Falklands War. He came back a war hero from that. But you've got to look at the company that he's kept over the years. His friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his friendship with various dictators.
No, I get that. The point is, what I'm trying to say is, what would that leave Andrew's relationship with William like, for instance? Or what's his relationship with Charles like?
Well, the relationship with Charles has always been fairly fraught because Charles has always taken the lead as far as the royal family are concerned. Andrew's felt himself to be a very senior member and feels he should be a part of it. He was very aggrieved in 2012 at the time of the Diamond Jubilee when he wasn't invited onto the balcony. You all remember that scene. Prince of Wales, Duchess of Cornwall, the Queen, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry. That's the future of the monarchy. Andrew felt aggrieved that he wasn't up there as well. So, the relationship is fractious. It would have been very difficult for the Queen yesterday to tell Andrew that he is no longer to do anything with any of his military honours.
Dickie.
At the end of the day, yes, she's head of state, she's head of nation, but she's also a mother, and it was very difficult for a mother.
Dickie, you're talking about that balcony argument there. I'm not putting words in your mouth here, whatever, but all the royals, I've met all the royals, and the one with the most sense of entitlement or superiority, I would have to say, is Prince. Now, you're laughing. You know what I'm saying here. There is a certain pomposity that goes with the man.
Yeah, you used a very gentle word there. I would call it arrogance. But yes, he's had his comeuppance. He's going to have to now fight this case. He's got several options: fight the case, pay off. But paying off comes at a price, not only the value, but also an apology. An apology then is seen by many as an admission of guilt. He's in a no-win situation, and being in a no-win situation, there's no way back for him.
Dickie, just tell me, obviously he's stepped back from the royal family for some time since that car crash interview with Emily Maitlis for Newsnight, but will the removal of his titles and his royal patronages create more work for the senior royals, for the Williams and the Kates? For example, the Trooping the Colour. Who will that fall to now?
Well, there are a number of royal colonels. It's conceivable that the Grenadier Guards, for example, because this is very much a brigade of guards parade, Trooping the Colour, might choose an interim colonel. That's up to them. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe Princess Anne will become colonel. Well, she's already colonel of the Blues and Royals, which is one of the household cavalry regiments. You can't ride two uniforms on one parade. So they'll be thinking very carefully. definitely. I'd be in favour, actually, of the Duchess of Cornwall becoming Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. She took over from one of the regiments from Prince Philip in 2020, the Rifles, and they're very pleased with her and the way she operates. And it was quite a nice gesture. She got made a Lady of the Garter, a Royal Lady of the Garter, a couple of weeks ago. So another feather in her cap would be, yes, Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. It's not an immediate issue at the moment.
Yeah, it just is a bit ridiculous that he's in charge or he has this patronage for so many regiments, really. It looks a bit silly when you look at it.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But tell me this, Dickie, a lot's been made of what the man, and as I say, he says, look, I've done nothing wrong and why shouldn't he fight his corner? But what is his use? What is his purpose? What is going to happen to him over the next 15 years or so? And in short, outside his ex-wife and his children, who seem very, very fond of him, has he got mates? Has he got friends?
$1 million question, that. Has he got friends? I think many of his so-called friends would have run a mile with everything that's been going on, dissociating themselves from him because mud sticks and they don't want to be part of that. It's very difficult. You've got to have an element of sympathy, but then he's dug his own pit and he's jumped into it. He's got a long haul now to get through this case. What happens at the end of it, quite simply, is nothing, because there is no way back for him into royal life. If you cast your mind back to something not similar, but in the 1960s, John Profumo got caught up in a scandal with Russian spies and call girls. He went off after the dust had settled and became a volunteer at Toynbee Hall and was recognised for that.
Yeah.
And that's probably all that's left for Andrew, to volunteer somewhere. But will people want him to volunteer? Somebody somewhere will want him to volunteer, but that is a long time hence.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's a good point. He has to rehabilitate himself. He's got to reinvent himself, and it'd be interesting to see how that happens. Dickie, always a pleasure talking to you. The first time in all the years I've known you that I've ever spoken to you and you haven't worn a tie, and you look very well, could I say? It was like a different person.
I feel very well. Thanks. Thank you both.
Not at all. Thank you anytime. Thank you very much indeed.
Stay with us. Coming up, pothole-related breakdowns have hit a 3-year high. You don't need us to tell you that. We're going to be talking to the campaigner Mr. Pothole in a few moments' time. But first, here's your forecast.
Hello, good morning. It's pretty cold out there for many of us, a frosty start with some dense fog patches to contend with during the morning and in some places into the early afternoon. Otherwise, sunny spells away from the fog. The weather staying generally dry and settled under this area of high pressure, but it's the light winds surrounding this high pressure that have led to the frost and fog overnight. And that means it's going to stay chilly for some time this morning. Temperatures only slowly rising, the fog only slowly thinning and lifting. Some fog patches lasting into the afternoon, but otherwise across a good part of England and Wales, sunny spells replace the fog. Less fog and frost for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more cloud here, some persistent damp weather for the far north and northwest, but milder for the northwest of Scotland, 10 Celsius here, whilst it's a cold afternoon further south, especially where any of that persistent fog remains. Temperatures struggling out of the low single figures where that happens. And the fog quickly reforming overnight, with eastern England signalled as being the, well, favoured spot, I should say, for some of the worst visibility by the start of the weekend. Low cloud more likely for South Wales, southwest England, perhaps frost-free here. In between, some sunshine, but certainly a cold start once again across a large part of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing a bit more of a breeze and areas of cloud, so generally fog and frost-free here, but a lot of cloud and some showery rain into the northwest later, whilst England and Wales stay generally quite gloomy. Some brighter spells, but in a few spots, particularly eastern England, the mist and fog could last all day. And again, where that happens, it will feel on the chilly side. Sunday brings brighter skies to northern parts of the UK, staying generally cloudy and misty further south. Monday sees mixed conditions for many, but for most, it's looking rather dry.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
You're listening to and watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel. Tomorrow is big day.
Yeah, National Pothole Day. Not a day to celebrate.
Is that circled in your calendar?
Oh, always.
Yeah. But you see, this is the thing. We're going to go to a man who runs a crusade, and he's very, very important. His name's Mark Morell, also known as Mr. Pothole Mark, with all that you do in crusade about this. And I think what I'm getting at is, anytime I hear this discussed, it's all a little bit of a joke. It's all a little bit, it's Pothole Day, oh, that's a little bit funny, and that's a little bit quirky. It's not bloomin' funny, is it?
No, not when 250 cyclists have been killed or seriously maimed as a result of hitting potholes. And recently, the Motorcycle Action Group has said that bad road surfaces have contributed to the death of 74 motorcyclists a year.
Yeah. I'll ask you this, Mark, quite simply. Why does it happen? Why does it exist? Is this a technology problem? Is this a funding problem? I mean, is there a basic problem with the way we build our roads, or is the problem the way we repair our roads?
All of the above, Eamonn. Lack of funding, decades of underinvestment, not use of new technology and innovations that are out there, a culture where they're used to not having the funds to do the job correctly, lack of supervision, lack of training. I did a number of recommendations to the Transport Select Committee, and there was an excellent report done by the MPs cross-party, and the government gave it lip service. At the end of the day, they're not interested, because they'll come out today and say, they're going to give they're giving billions of pounds on roads, but the roads are not getting any better. The backlog's not getting any better either. And it's not just roads, it's footpaths, bridges, structures. There's a £30 billion backlog in total road maintenance in this country.
Mark Morell, I've been out and about with one of these trucks that go to repair potholes back in the past in Gloucestershire, and we do literally, as a country, paper over the cracks. We don't resurface a whole area, no matter how bad the area is. We just sort of do a little bit of a repair job, which then gets exposed to the weather and isn't a permanent solution. Why are we so cheap about it?
Exactly. But repairing potholes is a waste of money and time. They're a necessary evil. I've campaigned to get dangerous potholes and roads resurfaced. The government need to actually fund an extra £1.5 billion a year going forward every year for an annual resurfacing programme, because most of our roads are 60 to 70 years old in terms of the wearing surface. They only last 20 years, so it's no surprise to anybody the fact that we see the problems we're having.
Well, I'll tell you, Mark, you know what makes me, there's a lot of things make me angry about this. utility companies. So you get people coming along and they put gas pipes down and they put cables. I mean, we were all supposed to be supplied by cable TV and all this business, and they come along and they do their bit and then they put over the top of it not very well, and then somebody comes and digs it up again, and then it's electricity cables, and then you know what I'm talking about here. How much of this blame should be put on utility companies?
Well, a report recently said that 55% of urban potholes are a result of utilities works. Now, my background is utilities from gas. It can be done properly, but if you're not inspecting it, the council should be inspecting and ensuring that those works are done to a high standard. But also, if they had a resurfacing programme, all of those excavations and reinstatements would be resurfaced over, but because they're not resurfacing it, those actual excavations to provide what we need in terms of gas, electric, telephones and everything else are going to be there infinitum, and they're not designed for that. The problem is that, as I said, unless the government step up and actually allocate money for resurfacing programs, this is going to continue and getting worse. And you can see the RAC's report in terms of breakdowns that supports the fact that our roads have got past the tipping point virtually, and lack of maintenance. I mean, basic things are clearing drains where water sits. I mean, poor quality repairs, lack of training. There's a number of issues that I make recommendations to that have included in that report, but government give it lip service. I would love to have the roads minister on him and actually have a one-to-one with her rather than this glib statements. They got more spin than a propeller on a Spitfire.
Listen, mate, thank goodness you're there. Really, honestly, the service that you provide. And what we want to do, I want to talk to you again throughout the programme, and more importantly, people who maybe have stories to tell, maybe people who have solutions to all of this. What is the solution? I mean, I remember in the course of my life, I've been able to travel a lot around the world. And I used to always, Mark, say, well, at least the roads in the UK are fine.
They're
rubbish in America, they're rubbish in Russia, Germany seems to have quite good roads,
Spain
I have to
wonderful
say.
roads.
Do they?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant roads.
Can't
I'm going to ask,
noticed.
are our roads a national embarrassment now, international embarrassment?
You mean their main roads are good, but not their side
Rural
roads?
roads?
I don't think so. And they've got their own problems with heat is a big problem as well there and whatever. There's so much to talk about, and it affects us all. Who's to blame? What can be done about it? Mark Morrell, he is Mr. Pothole. It is National Pothole Day tomorrow, and we've got to make aware the dangers of all of this. Mark, speak later. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. At GBNews, tweet us to get in touch with that.
Yeah, send us your pics as well. Up next, we have the choreographer Kevin Adams, never minces his words, and the lovely journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. She'll be going through the papers with Kevin in just a few moments.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
On this Friday morning, I'm delighted to welcome into the studio fitness guru, choreographer, maestro, Kevin Adams, and journalist, broadcaster, woman of common sense, Claire Muldoon as well. How would you describe yourself?
Brilliant, amazing, superb.
And smells lovely.
And smells wonderful.
You do smell really well. Now look, okay, the thing is, folks, everybody knows what the front pages are. I don't want to really go through the same things. How does this make you feel, first of all, about Prince Andrew? The man says, I didn't do it. All these charges against me are false. I'm surprised, Kevin, he didn't take it into his own hands and say, look, until all this dies down, I'm going to step back, I'm going to give up these titles and whatever. Now he looks worse for it, I think.
Yes, he does. First of all, he did an interview, ill-advised interview that really just sank him deeper into the water, because innocence, if you are innocent, should be proven, and he didn't do so in the interview, made a bad mistake, and he should have just given up the titles and said, I'm going to fight this as a private citizen and then I'll return.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that. He waited until was summoned by the Queen to say, no, you can't do this. You'll have to do this as a private citizen.
Which leads to the title, the headlines that he's been stripped of his titles as opposed to he steps back.
Yeah, not really stripped, because ultimately, if he's found innocent, he'll get them back. And when you say stripped, it makes it sound so dramatic. He's still going to have the same amount of income because he'll still have the income from the things that he did before. What changes for him? Well,
What's his purpose in life? He's going to have the best handicap in the country, isn't he? Because he's got nothing else to do.
But play golf?
To play golf all the time.
Well, what was his purpose in life before?
Well, okay, that's debatable, you know, but...
I didn't understand, though, that the reason his titles were stripped was to enable him to fight this case in the US...
Private citizen.
...as a civil case. That's the reason why
But I'm saying he's not in charge of the narrative here. He could have said, hey, folks, I'm innocent, but you know what? To save embarrassment to the Queen, to the monarchy, I'm going to step back. And he hasn't done that.
It's the arrogance. It's the absolute arrogance that's running through every single paper. And he's being tried in the court of public opinion. This picture of him and Miss Giuffre has been around for years.
Yeah.
Longer than the Woking Pizza Express, I have to say. But he just has to fight this, and she is adamant that she wants her day in court with him.
Yeah, to tell the story.
She wants to face him, and she wants to hear him admit that he has done wrong.
He is, I mean, I asked Dickie Arbiter, who was the former press secretary to the Queen, who are his friends or who was around him.
I heard that.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you have ever met him, of all the members of the royal family, he exudes this, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, that he could be quite pompous or boorish.
He's very succinct. When I met him, he was...
Clipped?
Yes, he was clipped. There you go. Did I feel he was speaking down to me? No, because no one can speak down to me. I wasn't raised that way.
Yes.
But yeah, there was a certain...
I sat across from him once at a dinner, and he didn't want to speak to me. Literally, he was there. He didn't want to say, hello, how are you? And I've met him a number of times, but he never just sort of engages.
I like the question you did ask Dickie Arbiter, who are his mates?
Yeah.
You know, we hear them being quoted. Friends of, experts of, acquaintances of. We've never met them. We've never seen any photo opportunities with him and friends. He's a bit of an enigma, but ultimately this country are paying for that enigma, and I think we've paid enough.
Okay. Right, let's move on now to, spies in the camp. What do you make of all this? These Chinese spies, and the lady behind all of this, the lady connected to all of this, why is she still here in the country? She's running a spy ring or trying to gain influence, but it's okay. You can stay in the country. Why issue the warning if she's going to stay in the country?
MI5 have been tracking her for the past goodness knows how many years. She's got satellite law firms in Chinatown, and she's got satellite law firms in Hong Kong. She's got them scattered all over the world. And yet we're facing an energy crisis, we're facing a housing crisis, we're facing schools being bought up by Chinese money. What is the infiltration of China, of Chinese money, of Chinese cash into this country? And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg.
So you're
it's
saying we're making a rod for our own back
we
here?
Are
when you
indeed.
let Russian influence happen. I mean, you look at the gas situation alone.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, energy
and
security.
And we've spoken about it.
And now we've got technology dominance and infiltration by the Chinese.
And the metaverse, everything is being taken over. COVID, Wuhan, COVID testing, that's the biggest irony on this planet, that the COVID tests are actually manufactured and distributed by China.
We want the money. We want the investment.
Yes.
If you didn't want it, it wouldn't be here. This narrative, like the Chinese are coming in, they're taking over. They're not. They're investing, and we
Kevin,
receive.
We are allowing it to happen.
They're buying influence.
Yes.
That's it.
And that's the wrong thing. It's even infiltrated to the Houses of Parliament, the highest judiciary in the land.
But have we not done that in the past, as British people? Have we not done that in the past?
But it's been written about in books.
So we've done it in the past?
Yes.
So the Chinese are doing it now. What's the problem?
The problem is we are allowing it to happen. We're supposed to be an evolved country now. We're supposed to know right from wrong, although the front of the papers today would highlight that indeed our politicians, the very people that we operate, the very people that we employ.
Yeah. And you know, wars, Kevin, today can happen in different ways. If you have influence in technology, and if you have influence in utilities and whatever, that gives you power, that gives you control, which means you never have to fire a shot, really.
But we've allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
When the highest in the land has allowed this to happen. Our government has allowed this to happen.
Yeah.
And we've sat by. But we've done as a nation. We've done things in the past where we have gone. We've gone to foreign clients and done exactly the same thing.
It's all some massive big games.
Yes, it is. Yes, and now the Chinese are still playing the game. They've got different rules, but it's the same game we've always played.
So what would you do then? What would you advise?
What would I advise?
Yeah.
You have to be very.
I don't work for the government. I can barely scrape by with a nutritional degree. But what I will tell you is, we want the money. We take it. If we don't want the money, it has to stop. There is a balance, but we want to trade.
I don't even know what they're doing with the money. I don't know what the money Barry Gardner...
Kevin, where I don't agree with you is when you look at something like energy security.
Yes.
I mean, what half-wit decides we'll let Vladimir Putin decide how much we get or how much we don't get. He can turn the knob or he can't turn the knob. I mean, that needs a rethink. That's all I'm saying with that. But what I do want to know is this Labour MP, Barry Gardner, why she has donated nearly £500,000 to this guy. What does he do with that? I mean, we'll be finding that out today.
Technically, she gave the money to the Labour Party. He employed her son as his aide.
Right.
So there's lots of money going around, but he's not the only one. Ed Davey, the leader of the Lib Dems, received £5,000 to his constituency that went on fees or expenses.
But your point is there's no such thing as a free lunch, really.
That is exactly what my point is. And of course there's not. There must be political sway here. You do not give that amount of money to someone that wants nothing in return.
Okay. Right, guys, got to ask you this party business and, you know, where will it end? What more are we going to hear? Two more revelations today about this. Are people now immune to this and they say, well, yeah, it happens, now let's move on, let's talk about something else? Or does this show a complete lack of judgment on Boris Johnson's watch?
I have to say, at Christmas, I went to drop my mum's Christmas present to her home. She wouldn't let us in. I dropped it to the front door. She wouldn't come to the front door until I'd stepped back and gave her Christmas present, and that she had Christmas dinner on her own. Then you see these shenanigans going on, and you hear. First of all, we've got the Dominic Cummings affair, where we've got that to deal with, and we acknowledge that the man is slightly short of the truth. And now Just admit you did it. Boris, just admit you had the party. He admits it, then I was only in there for 25 minutes. Do you know how much damage I can do with a bottle of gin in 25 minutes?
Yeah.
You went to the party. It doesn't matter.
But if it was business, I'd like to know, well, what business did you achieve in that 25 minutes? You know? It's either business or it's a party.
Yes. And so...
Look, do you know, it's like whatever way you look at it, it's wrong, rules were broken, and it's this lecturing to you, to me, what we can or can't do. And we've got a man on later who was fined for having a gathering in his back garden.
He's asked for the refund.
He's asked for the money back,
Yeah.
and you think he's got a case?
Well, talking about cases, there was a funny meme going around, I don't know if anyone else has seen it, it's Boris Johnson over a case of Cobra, and the tagline is, could they just not have said it was a Cobra meeting?
A Cobra meeting.
And do you know what? That is not far from the truth, because I'm actually quite convinced that thought process would have gone through Boris Johnson's mind.
And you know, a lot of this is funny and is humorous, or it would be, if people's lives weren't at risk, and weddings didn't happen, and funerals didn't happen,
Christmas
and
dinners didn't happen.
all sort of things.
Yes.
But anyway, guys, we'll hold that thought. We'll come back. You'll do it again in an hour. We'll look at other stories in the papers. But for the moment, Claire and Kevin, thank you both very much indeed. Isabel.
Now, it's just 3 weeks to go until the start of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. Great Britain are sending around 50 athletes to China, including Leila Fear and Lewis Gibson. They'll be making their Olympic debuts in the ice dance category, and our reporter Alice Porter has been speaking to them about their first Olympics.
Leila Fear and Lewis Gibson were paired together in 2016, and since then they've gone on to win 2 Grand Prix bronze medals in ice dance. But what exactly is ice dance, and how does it differ from figure skating?
In ice dance, we do not jump. So we also do not lift above my head. So my arms cannot be extended above my head when we do our lifts. So it's kind of, there's a lot more rules also. So it creates a place where you have to be way more creative in order to gain points.
So you're in Estonia at the moment, and you're going to be performing at the European Championships today. How are you feeling doing that as well as training for the Olympics in Beijing next month?
So we're really being conscious to have our focus here in what we're doing today, which will be a really strong step forward towards Beijing.
For today's rhythm dance, we will be skating to a medley of Kiss songs. So a little bit different for the ice dance world, that kind of rock, but also, you know, like fun and entertaining. For our free dance, we will be skating to The Lion King.
This is obviously a very different Olympic experience than past ones, but for us, it's our first experience. So we don't really know what to expect anyways. And we're extremely grateful to have the opportunity to compete to represent Great Britain. So I think we're going in remaining very open-minded and obviously health conscious, because that is the huge issue and something that everyone needs to take on board and be responsible for competing.
So Leila, I know your journey into skating is quite straightforward, but Lewis, yours is a little bit more unusual. Just tell me how you got into skating.
I started in football, and that was something that ran in my family, so very natural for me to give that a shot first. But actually, after watching the first season of Dancing on Ice, I thought, you know, it looks fun, let's give it a try, went along, and I never looked back. It was so great. And that was actually my first experience of seeing Torvill and Dean skate. But my mom explained to me that way back when they won Olympic gold and the whole of the UK was watching, it was such a special moment.
Obviously, watching skaters enjoy the sport, it's what got you into the sport. And then for me growing up, I've had so many idols that really paved the way and showed me the possibility if you work hard and believe in yourself. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I totally believe in it. And so I think we just hope to show the true raw joy of what we do, how that drives us every day, and how that's what got us to the Olympics.
I could watch that all day.
Could you?
That's my favourite item from the Winter Olympics is the figure skating. Ever since Torvill and Dean, it's just so beautiful. It's hypnotic.
Well, good luck to Leila and Lewis on that one. But I think a gold medal should go to Lily Hewitson, the reporter there. who perfected the art of being able to gargle and ask questions all at the same time.
Oh no, that was Alice Porter.
Was it? Well, there you are.
Lily's next. Let's see if Lily can gargle.
Forgive me now, but Lily is in Wales today. That wasn't you at all. Sorry, I was told that was you. So now you're in Pontypool today. Tell folk why you're there and what you're up to.
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. We are live across the UK from Pontypool this morning. Now, this town in Torfaen is full of that warm community spirit that is so unique to towns in the Welsh valleys. Now, I'm here to talk to people who live and work here about the top stories of the day here in the UK. Now, it's very cold, it's very dark, so I don't know if anyone's going to be up and about just yet, but these lights are giving something away here at this shop. So let's see who's in. Oh, yeah, we're up and awake. It's very, very early. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you doing? We're live across the UK from your shop in Pontypool this morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being up and awake. Firstly, can you just tell us your name, who you are and what you do?
Hello, my name is Paula Haynes. I'm the owner of this salon. I'm actually a local girl. I've lived here all my life. I live with my husband Brian, and I'm here this morning with my colleague Leah, getting ready for the start of the day.
Lovely stuff. Can we come in, Paula, and have a quick chat?
Certainly.
Lovely stuff. Thank you for having us. Oh, it's lovely and warm in here. Very, very jealous. So, this morning, I think we've obviously, firstly, got to talk about Boris. You know, it's what everyone is talking about. These parties, what do you make of them, Paula? How do you feel?
They've just blatantly disregarded all their rules that they put in place themselves. And they must think they're above the rules, and they've got to be accountable for it. So
yeah, what do you reckon, Leah?
Yeah, it does make you wonder how, you know, they felt comfortable to meet up themselves, even though we were told, obviously, not to mix with other people. So, yeah, it does make you think, doesn't it? Yeah.
And something we found out this morning is that, you know, 2 parties possibly went ahead the night before the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral as well. We all saw those pictures of the Queen sat alone at the funeral. What do you think after hearing about that?
They were, again, they should be accountable for their actions. They knew, you know, we were in lockdown, and they shouldn't have done it. It's not on, really. So yeah.
What do you think, Leah?
Yeah, I think as well that you think about there was people who were losing loved ones in hospital alone, and then, like you related back to the Queen, who was there by herself at the funeral, and it is hard to see.
Now, talking about the royals, something everyone is talking about is Prince Andrew and these allegations against him. He's losing his military titles, as well as the use of His Royal Highness. What do you think about the future of the monarchy and how people kind of view the royal family, I guess?
Yeah, it's quite dire for them, I think. The public are not going to let it go, and it's going to be a long, long time before it's forgotten. Well, if it ever will be forgotten. It's just, this, again, not on.
What do you think, Leah?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Yeah, it's not going to be something that they're going to let go of lightly at all. No.
And something that, again, is happening today is the Welsh Government are going to be outlining their plan for, you know, future the easing of restrictions here in Wales. You know, they're going to outline it today, and hopefully over the next 2 weeks we might see some easing of this alert level 2 that we're in at the moment. What do you think about the way they've handled things over the last 2 years, and hopefully the easing that could be coming over the next few weeks?
It's, well, hopefully, like you say, we're going to get to the level, drop the levels. If they don't, people are just going to go across the border to England anyway, and for this Rugby Six Nations that's started next month. So I think they need to seriously think and put something.
Yeah.
And lastly, something we've been talking a lot about is the cost of living as well. So what do you think? You know, bills are going up every year. Not a lot is being done to kind of stop that. How are you feeling at the moment about the price of living going up?
Yeah, it is. We've actually had to increase some salon prices for this month since we've reopened after Christmas. And a lot of people are struggling, and it is hard, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be with it. But yeah, it is very hard time.
Well, thank you for having us in your salon this morning, Paula. It's been lovely to speak to you, and also, you know, nice being in the warm rather than out in the cold. There's plenty more to talk about here in Pontypool this morning. Do stay with us, but for now, back to you.
Well, you've enough time to have a little sort of set and blow dry if you want before you're back again.
Hair looks beautiful. Thanks, Lily.
Thank you, guys.
There's nothing like a Welsh welcome. They really do know how to welcome you in the Welsh valleys. And the sing-song voices, they're just the best. I'm married to a Welshman, so I'm biased.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking there's nothing like a Welsh welcome. Yes, there is.
An Irish welcome.
Yeah, correct.
Well, yeah, my husband's a bit Irish as well, so, it's all in there.
But listen, we love getting out. The lovely thing there about being in Pontypool today, it's just lovely being there or in Hull or in Scotland or Plymouth or in Belfast, wherever it happens to be. We're your news with your views. Back after this.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Just for the time, it's 7 o'clock. We've got some breaking news here regarding Novak Djokovic. Isabel will fill you in on the latest twist in the tale.
Yes, indeed. So, of course, he's been having this argument, hasn't he, with the authorities in Australia about whether or not he can stay in the country given his vaccination status. And the breaking news in the last few moments is that his visa has been cancelled by Australia's immigration minister. Now, the judge who was hearing his appeal on Monday said that this was in the gift of the ministers, that he was legally able to do that. Of course, he won that appeal on Monday. This will be a huge blow for him, for his chances in the Australian Open. We'll have full analysis on that breaking story
and a
later
huge
on.
blow for the tournament organisers and everything that goes with it. The repercussions of that, we're going to get analysis on that. Where do we stand? Is this the end? Is he out of the tournament, out of the country? Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio. Thank you for joining us today on that. Coming up, is the party finally over for Boris Johnson? The Prime Minister's staff are now accused of holding 2 leaving parties. These are new revelations, since, in case you just think this is the same story over and over again, 2 new leaving parties revealed in number 10. On the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral.
Yeah, where will it end? We'll be talking to the Home Office Minister, Conservative MP Damien Hines, on this very matter in a few moments' time.
Also, the Duke of York has been stripped of his military titles and patronage. We'll be live in Windsor shortly with the latest.
China has denied interfering in UK politics after MI5 warned an agent of the country had infiltrated Parliament. Our Home and Security Editor Mark White will take us through all of those details.
And you can join in on anything that we are talking about on this, the eve of National Pothole Day, which may well affect you. You may have a tale to tell. You may have a damaged car, or maybe yourself out jogging or on a bicycle, because a lot of fatalities as a result of this as well. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at GBNews. OK, let's begin this section of the programme with our reporter Ellie Costello. Ellie is at Windsor today. Prince Andrew has been stripped of those military titles. And Ellie, let's just go through the... we'll take your word for it that you're at Windsor Castle. You could be in a cupboard somewhere. But there is a big castle behind you, yes? Yes?
Definitely, yes. I am outside Windsor Castle.
Excellent. So where's Andrew? What do we know about him?
Well, Eamonn and Isabel, he was pictured leaving Windsor Castle yesterday in a car, looking very upset, looking out of the window after having conversations with his mother, the Queen, at Windsor Castle yesterday. And very shortly after that conversation, Buckingham Palace released a statement, a very rare statement, that said that he would be losing his royal and military titles. They would be returned to the Queen, that Prince Andrew will no longer be partaking in any royal duties. Those royal duties will now be divvied up with the rest of the royal family. We know too that he will not be referred to as His Royal Highness in any official capacity anymore. And it also says in that statement that he will be defending this civil case in New York as a private citizen. And that comes after Judge Kaplan in New York gave the green light for this civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre against Prince Andrew to go ahead in the United States. So that was the catalyst really for these events, and Prince Andrew has denied any wrongdoing, and he continues to deny any wrongdoing. But that was the catalyst for this open letter that came about yesterday from 150 military veterans from across all of the armed forces, and a direct quote from that letter said that they were upset and angry that Prince Andrew had retained his honorary military roles, and they asked for them to be removed. And the palace started yesterday by giving no comment to that open letter, but it did become clear as the day went on that it was untenable that the Duke of York could stay in those positions. And to be honest with you, Isabel and Eamonn, Prince Andrew has been in limbo for the best part of 2 years now. He's only been seen publicly as a royal member of the family at the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. But other than that, he's been spending a lot of time at Windsor Castle, shielding from the public eye. He had still retained his military roles, though, leading 8 British regiments, including as the Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. And they were perhaps one of the most outspoken. And if things had been the way they were supposed to be, then Prince Andrew would have paraded with them at the Trooping of the Colour, the Queen's official birthday in June of this year. And of course, it's the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year. He would have been with the Grenadier Guards an awful lot in the next few months, and they were very outspoken that they didn't want that to be the case. They have to toast to the Duke of York at their events, at their ceremonies, and many of them expressed feeling uncomfortable about that. But I think, Isabel and Eamonn, this statement from Buckingham Palace shows that regardless of what happens in New York with this civil case, they very much consider that the reputation of Prince Andrew is beyond repair, and that's very much to do with his friendships with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender, and Ghislaine Maxwell, now a convicted sex trafficker. And those are facts that cannot now be denied. And this move by the palace is just about protecting the Windsor brand, the Windsor name, and the Queen, our monarch, a 95-year-old woman in her Platinum Jubilee year.
Ellie, thank you very much indeed. Very comprehensive there. That brings us up to date. Breaking news, though, this developing story all week. You may know if it's in or if it's out. We may need that. What do they have in tennis? What do we have, Paul, in tennis?
That's a tie break.
Eagle. Is it an eagle with that eye?
You know, it's VAR.
Oh, yes.
That system they have. So, you know, where is Djokovic? Is he in? Is he out? Isabel, what are we hearing this morning?
So the very latest twist in this development is that Australian authorities have cancelled his immigration visa for the second time. Of course, this happened when he first landed in the country.
So he won't be able to play?
Well, that's all in question, frankly. He arrived 10 days ago. He had his visa taken away at that point. He went into detention. He appealed it. It went before the court on Monday. I think the judgment came back, if I'm right, on Tuesday from the judge saying that he was allowed to stay. And since then, the Australian immigration authorities have gone over and above the head of the
Paul,
court
why is
and
this
made
important from a sporting perspective? We look at this tournament, you know, it's a big one in the calendar for tennis fans. A lot of other people mightn't bother with it now, but all eyes on the Australian Open. Is it poorer for him not being there, or does it just draw lots of attention to the fact the tournament's taking place?
I think a bit of both. I think it's poorer because he's not going to be there. If you look at it purely in a tennis perspective, because he's the #1 tennis player in the world, he's the holder of the Australian Open, he's won it 9 times already. This is such a huge tournament for him, personally, because that would make him go ahead of Rafa Nadal and also Roger Federer if he wins. But I tell you, the irony that you just mentioned about it's Hawkeye.
Yeah, yes. Hawkeye.
And do you know the name of the immigration minister who's making the decision? Alex Hawke.
No way.
What are the chances? So it's Alex Hawke that's made the decision. Hawkeye, it just all kind of
headlines dream.
It really is.
Okay, let's put ourselves in Djokovic's position. Yep. You know, the judge himself said on Monday that he had actually done nothing wrong. What more could this man have done, was the argument. And he filled in all and jumped through all the hoops that he believed he was expected to do. He will rightly be feeling like he's been messed around, whether or not we agree with his vaccination status.
It's become political now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was always going to come political. As soon as you see what's going on in Serbia, when the Serbian president gets involved, he's speaking to Djokovic, then you know this is getting bigger. And then it starts turning into an international incident. And so now Australia are thinking, well, how do we deal with this? We've also got an election that we've got to fight in a few months. What are the people going to think? So it moves away from tennis and a champion actually playing at a tournament. It's what's important for the country. So, I mean, I'll give you some of the statement, and this is what Alex Hawke said. He said, today I exercised my power under Section 133C, bracket 3, of the Migration Act to cancel the visa held by Mr Novak Djokovic on health and good order grounds on the basis that it was in the public interest to do so. So the thing is, well, another thing that everybody's going to be complaining about, especially Djokovic, why has it taken so long? He's been out of the hotel, he's been mixing with people as well. Why take so long to make this decision? Because I can't see that there's going to be any other evidence or any other mitigating circumstances that are going to make him think, I know now I'm going to pull the plug. So him and his lawyers are now going to fight against this. Right. Not surprisingly.
So it's not necessarily over.
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
So and there's an appeal on the appeal.
There's an appeal on the appeal. So this is like a double tie break. I'm trying to and then the tournament gets underway on Monday. He's in the draw. Well, he's obviously going to be. It was probably written in thick pencil, which is now becoming less and less. So he's now going to appeal. His lawyers are going to say, well, this is not fair. So where we go from here, honestly, it's anybody's guess. It could just keep continuing through the morning.
And look, anyone who is feeling sympathetic towards him may also do well to be reminded that, of course, he tested positive, didn't he, in December for COVID, and then was pictured the following day, not only with children, but knowingly went to an interview with a journalist having tested positive. So there's a lot of people who question his judgment when it comes to the whole issue of COVID, vaccination and infection.
100%, even in Serbia they have. See, this is almost the concession that he's given, is saying that I tested positive. I had no idea when I met the children, but the next day when my PCR came back positive, I had a long-standing interview with a journalist from L'Equipe, and I didn't want to let him down. The guy was positive with COVID, for crying out loud, but he didn't want to let him down, so he kept his mask on, kept a distance from when he was having his photographs taken. So that's the concession he's given. Whether that's got anything to do with the decision in the court or from the immigration minister, I'm not sure, but it's taken a while. But as far as we know, he's out of the tournament now.
Okay.
And he'll be deported unless there's an appeal.
Just finally, what does this mean for Andy Murray's chances in the tournament if the world #1's out?
There's always a silver lining, isn't there, somewhere? Andy Murray, who's playing at the moment, he's in the last 4 of the Sydney Open. He will go into the Australian Open. No tennis player is going to be open to say, well, it's a good job he's gone because it helps me. But obviously, when you've got the world #1 and you've got the likely winner of the tournament out of it, it leaves it open to other tennis.
Okay, Paul Coyte, you're listening and watching Paul Coyte there, our sportsman. Thank you very much indeed. The latest twist in the Djokovic case.
You couldn't write it, could you?
You could not make it up. I mean, it's literally a soap.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his visa cancelled yet again.
Second time, yeah.
Let's get up to date with the news headlines you're waking up to. Downing Street staff have been accused of holding 2 further parties in number 10, with one on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. The Telegraph newspaper claims the events were held in April last year while the country was in a period of national mourning. Downing Street says the Prime Minister was away from home at the time.
The Foreign Office has raised concerns with the Chinese ambassador after MI5 warned an agent's been interfering in UK politics. China's denying the allegations, saying it had no need to buy influence in any foreign parliament.
Parliamentary Committee has said public money should be withheld from cricket unless it can clean up its act on racism. It's after Asim Rafiq gave an emotional testimony in November last year about the racist abuse he faced during 2 stints with Yorkshire County Cricket Club.
6 members of Insulate Britain due to be released from prison after they broke an injunction preventing them from protesting on roads. The group are among 10 people who were jailed for breaking the government's injunction on the M25.
Pothole-related breakdowns have reached a 3-year high. The Royal Automobile Club says it received over 10,000 call-outs for problems caused by damaged road surfaces last year. That's nearly 20% more than 2020. So let's stay with that message on potholes. Tomorrow is a day dedicated to highlighting the state of our roads.
Circled in your calendar every year.
Circle. But yeah, we do tend to laugh about it, but this is very, very serious, and it is an absolute disgrace. It used to be that British roads were the pride of the world, absolutely. And now I used to go to America and say, this is ridiculous. How can they actually drive on these surfaces? Our roads were always superior, but then American practices probably get involved here in this country where utility companies dig up the roads and all that sort of thing. What are folks saying, Isabel?
Well, Mike's been in touch. He says over £700 of damage to my wife's car. He says his local council weren't interested and passed it over to Zurich Insurance.
Outlaw Realms says, what are we paying road tax for if they're never fixing them? Well, they are fixing them, but not at the rate, I suppose, that any of us want, and not effectively. And I would like to look into this whole technology. How do we fill potholes? I mean, there must be another solution, because what we know is what we use is open to the elements, the periphery around the hole and whatever never really heals properly. So, you know, technology surely must have an answer to all of this.
Yeah, Happy Feet's got in touch, not very happy this morning. We pay to drive on these awful roads, damaging our vehicles. So why are we paying road tax? Echoing the views of the other tweet. If everyone refused to pay, then they'd soon be repaired. Cannot put everyone in prison if everyone stood together.
Except that is assuming that you believe your road tax goes to road-related matters. It does not. It is not ring-fenced. To tell you more, Mark Morell, he is the pothole campaigner for this country, also known on social media as Mr. Pothole. So, Mark, that's absolutely right. You can hear and you can see why people believe that their road tax does what it says on the packet. It goes to roads, but it doesn't.
No, it's vehicle excise duty and it goes in the general pool. However, George Osborne decided to ring-fence an element of taxation from motorists to go into national highways. And of course, a lot of that, billions of pounds have been spent on so-called smart motorways that are not that smart because they realise they're unsafe. So that money that was ring-fenced, perhaps that should be used to start resurfacing our roads so we can do away with potholes. Interesting you said about techniques. Innovation is the way. The industry's got some really good techniques out there, but the culture and the industry and government are slow to push these things. I would like the Pothole Pro that I was involved with for JCB. Brilliant bit of kit, gets better performance, 10 times the amount of work you would with 2 guys doing the work, providing it's done correctly in the first place in terms of reinstatement after. Another thing is thermal repairs. Excellent machine. I had some repairs done as a trial when I was a councillor and mayor in Brackley over 7 years ago by the town hall. They're still standing up, but the service provider for what was Northamptonshire County Council are not there anymore. Didn't want to know. Well, surprise, there's no money in him for him.
Yeah. Mark, you know, we're looking at holes there all the time, but it's not just holes, it's surfaces. When the repairs happen, I mean, you sit in a car on what should be a smooth ride is whiplash. Not a smooth... Yeah, practically whiplash, absolutely right. Why are the repairs so bad?
Lack of training, lack of a supervision, a good old supervisor out checking what the standard of work's been done. Incorrect material was used. I sent some pictures in to Josh showing a pothole repaired. It was used the wrong type of material, didn't seal the edges, wasn't compacted correctly, and within hours, it's out again. And that's a waste of money. I sent some other where reasonable repairs have been done, but they were so high when you said about the pump, it was stopping the water draining down to the surface water drain. So it's endemic in terms of those things, of the culture of how things have been done. This patch and mend mentality will only see us, our roads deteriorating even more.
Look, Mark, there's lots I'd love to talk to you about, but your signal today that we're getting from you is like an uneven road surface. But I want to say to you, tomorrow is the big day, right? It's National Pothole Day. People who feel frustrated, all of us, because we all have to travel, whether you're a passenger, whether you're a driver. We feel these surfaces, we see these potholes, we see the damage. Unfortunately, you've talked about fatalities related to all of this as well. What can people do? What would you say to make tomorrow worthwhile? What should people be doing?
Report them so that you might save someone getting killed or injured, at least a claim. I'm looking for the worst road in the country so I can campaign to get it repaired and resurfaced. I've successfully done that using legal notices under the Highways Act that gives power to the members of the public.
Mark Morell, Mr. Pothole, thank you very much indeed. At least very smooth answers from you. Maybe talk again before the end of the programme, and we certainly want people's experiences of this. As Mark was saying, the worst road in the country. Where is it? Name and shame.
OK, an extraordinary story now. China is denying interfering in British politics after warnings from MI5 that an agent has infiltrated Parliament. Let's bring in our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who joins us in the studio. Mark, just first of all, explain how this all links into a woman called Christine Lee and her links with the Labour Party specifically, and an MP many people will be familiar with, Barry Gardiner. Large sums of money involved too.
Yeah, it's a very significant story, and clearly MI5 taking the very unusual step of issuing this alert to the parliamentary authorities. Now, this isn't spying in the sort of traditional sense that we know about spying, the stealing of secrets. It's this espionage within the grey area that's becoming more prominent in recent years. So it's effectively trying to buy influence,
it's just corruption,
and power.
By any other explanation.
Yeah, with a view to interfering and subverting the democratic process, and that's according to MI5, which was what was at foot here. It is basically.
But Mark, what this MI5 business? Why? I mean, most things they wouldn't tell us about. Why are they telling us about this?
Well, it's interesting, the timing of this. We've got no explanation as to why suddenly it's come to the ahead where they feel that they have to issue this alert, because according to Barry Gardiner, who you mentioned there, having received close to £500,000 from this woman over the years, he says that he contacted MI5 because it raised alarm bells in his head a few years back when he met this woman, and she was clearly happy to donate to him. It was used to fund researchers within his office. So if there was those concerns raised all that while ago, why is it being issued now? Yeah. But the other question, of course, is for Barry Gardiner. If you had concerns all those years ago about this woman with links to Chinese companies offering you money, that you went to MI5, why on earth did you take money from this woman in the first place?
So big questions for him, big questions for the Labour Party. But also, why is the Chinese ambassador being asked, questions about this by the Foreign Office? Why isn't more serious action being taken? Why isn't Christine Lee, for example, being thrown out of the country? Many people will be wondering.
Well, this is the one to watch, isn't it? Because this alert has come out, yet we're told no action has been taken against Christine Lee. She's gone to ground. She's not at her offices. The Chinese embassy has come out and said, absolutely, this is so untrue. You're just, besmirching the good name of the Chinese people. You would expect them to say that, wouldn't you? But given that MI5 were in that notice saying that she was involved in illegal activities, what often happens, of course, when spies are caught out, is they're kicked out of the country. You know, diplomats are kicked out.
Well,
so let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, we've actually got the Minister for State and Security and Borders, Damien Hines, and we'll
He's
put
the very man for you.
We've just called him up, and he's going to be speaking to us about all of this right after this break. Don't go away. Keep it here.
Thank you, Mark.
This is GB News. This is Breakfast in GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Welcome back. The time is 24 minutes past 7. We've been talking about China just before the break, and we're going to continue with that theme. China has denied interfering in UK politics after MI5 was warned that a Chinese agent had infiltrated Parliament.
Right, well, why she's still in the country, and let's go to Damien Hines, MP, Minister of State for Security and Borders and all sorts of things in there, Damien Hines. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, why would MI5 alert us? And why is she still here? It's very worrying.
Well, of course, look, I mean, it is definitely a matter of concern when, on behalf of a foreign state, the Chinese Communist Party, in this case, we have somebody seeking to influence our domestic democratic system in this way. But this is an example of our system working, having detected it and then using this notice to disrupt it and to warn effectively other people. So, as I say, it's the system at work, and these notices are one tool that the security service has at its disposal. But what we've seen yesterday is a disruption of this activity. I'm afraid that we're likely to see more of these in the future.
Well, Minister, we've got our Home Affairs correspondent Mark White with us here in the studio. We're just going to take advantage of you being there and him being here for him to talk to you.
Minister, great to see you again.
Sure.
In terms of this woman, Christine Lee, she was clearly described in the alert to parliamentary authorities as someone involved in illegal activity. Given that is the case, why on earth is this woman still in the country? She's gone to ground, we can't find her, but why is she still in the country? Why is she not, as you do with other spies, expelled from the country?
Well, there are a number of ways of disrupting activity, and this notice approach is one way of doing that. As what's happened on this occasion, I know you'll understand that as a matter of long-standing policy, a government minister doesn't comment on the immigration status of an individual, and when it comes to questions around criminal proceedings and so on, those are matters for the police, the Crown Prosecution Service, not for government ministers. But what we are seeing with this development, as I was saying to Eamonn a moment ago, this is the system working. This is the security service using one of the important tools at its disposal to make sure that we stop this particular avenue of influence going on, and as I was also saying, it also serves as a broader notification to everybody in politics to be aware and to know the sorts of things that others might be trying to do when they're not all that they appear.
So, how many Christine Lees are out there then?
So there are clearly there is an incentive, there is a rationale for other countries to want to be involved in, to influence, to know more about our country. We shouldn't be surprised about that. This notice that the Security Service MI5 has issued, this is an unusual step, as you know, it's a rare step, but there are other ways of disrupting activity, and of course we also have an extensive framework of rules and regulations and protocols around things like donations to ensure that you can't have impermissible donors, you can't have proxy donors, money coming through the back door and so on. The requirement to declare interests and affiliations, all of these things are there to help to protect our democracy.
Minister, there are so many serious issues exactly like this that we would want to spend more time talking about. But once again, today's national front pages are being dominated by not the same party that we were talking about just a couple of days ago, but yet more parties inside Downing Street. Two parties, reports of a DJ in the basement, wheelie bins full of alcohol, and this time the night before the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. Is there an amoral culture at the heart of this government?
Well, look, like you, and I think everybody who has read this story this morning or heard about these allegations, I was shocked to read them. This is a time of a particularly sombre time for our whole country. Everybody was sharing in Her Majesty's grief on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral, and
it's an insult to the Queen. It's an insult to Her Majesty the Queen.
Continues to be struck by the dignity, the exceptional dignity of Her Majesty in mourning Prince Philip. As I say, I've been shocked to read this, but it is the first time I've read this morning's newspaper is the first I have read, and I don't know all the facts. Clearly, I wasn't there. I'm not in a position to comment, and so we need to have the full investigation,
yeah. But
the Sudre investigation, which will cover these allegations as well as
Mr. Hines, for people who would have granted some pardon or some leeway for the first party, the look. It's not good, is it? The look is not good. And suddenly the Prime Minister is nowhere to be seen. He disappeared because somebody in his circle seems to have COVID, although doesn't have symptoms. So therefore, as I understand it, Isabel, he's no need to isolate.
Well, if you're triple vaccinated, the current rules are that there's no need to isolate if someone in your household has tested positive. So I'm not sure why he's gone to ground.
None of this is a good look, is it?
So look, I understand what you say about the perception that people have, and as I say, look, I'm not shying away from saying to you, I am shocked this morning to read these allegations, but I'm not in a position to be able to comment on them, and I think it is important that people who can have access
understand that, Jamie Hines, and we appreciate what you've had to say so far. So thank you very much indeed for saying and giving us insight in whatever ways you can. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. We now cross to our political correspondent, Tom Harwood. Tom is in Westminster this morning there. What do you make of what you've heard there from the Minister?
Well, this is a fairly standard response, and one that we can expect to hear really until we see Sue Gray's report expected out early next week. Of course, the Downing Street have commented on the story last night, saying that the Prime Minister was not at number 10 on that evening, that Friday evening. Of course, usually on Fridays, the Prime Minister goes off to Chequers, his country residence, and it seems that he was at Chequers at the moment of these two parties that went on into the early hours of Saturday morning, sort of combined two separate leaving parties, one for a photographer, one for the Prime Minister's spokesman, and these two parties of around 15 people converged into a party of around 30 people, with a lot of booze, with music, ending up drinking in the gardens. Now, of course, the Prime Minister not being there doesn't detract from the seriousness of this story and the overarching impression that I believe this is now the 13th or 14th alleged event to have taken place in and around government while restrictions were placed on the rest of the country. It's a very serious allegation, and the Prime Minister is under a huge amount of pressure. Just last night, another MP, Andrew Bridgen, coming out to say that he didn't think that the Prime Minister's position was tenable. 5 Conservative MPs.
So Andrew Bridgen's coming out, Tom. Andrew Bridgen's coming out, but the Prime Minister's not coming out to play in any way. Again, I said it before to Damien Hines, not a good look. I say it again to you, another not a good look.
Certainly, and the Prime Minister has been accused of hiding from questions beforehand. Of course, it took the best part of 2 days at the start of this week to respond to those allegations of the party in the 20th of May 2020. And still we have not heard personally from the Prime Minister with regard to the allegations that broke in the Telegraph last night. Of course, we've also seen in the past the Prime Minister has not been wanting to subject himself to interviews, particularly during the general election. There was one moment where he ended up hiding in a fridge. Now, I'm not sure, given the pressure from his MPs, that he will be able to stave off comment for a particularly long time. Of course, we are assuming that a family member having tested positive means that the Prime Minister is still testing negative. Advice would mean limiting social contact, but it doesn't mean that he has to eliminate social contact. So I imagine there'll be a huge amount of pressure on the Prime Minister today to actually confront some of these allegations, to say something personally and not just rely on spokespeople from number 10.
I wonder that makeup of 10 Downing Street, that makeover, I wonder did they cable in some Zooms or something like that, you know, because nothing should really stop him in this day and age, speaking and being accountable, especially if he's no symptoms. Tom, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, and just, you know what, a little bit later on in the programme, we are speaking to two people who got fined for breaking lockdown rules. How do they feel about all of this?
Do they want their money back?
They want their money back, and you can understand why. We'll be talking to them. We'll also be talking about travel rules to France. They're about to change. All the details after this quick break, but first, here's the weather.
Hello, good morning. It's pretty cold out there for many of us, a frosty start with some dense fog patches to contend with during the morning and in some places into the early afternoon. Otherwise, sunny spells away from the fog, the weather staying generally dry and settled under this area of high pressure, but it's the light winds surrounding this high pressure that have led to the frost and fog overnight. And that means it's going to stay chilly for some time this morning. Temperatures only slowly rising, the fog only slowly thinning and lifting. Some fog patches lasting into the afternoon, but otherwise across a good part of England and Wales, sunny spells replace the fog. Less fog and frost for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more cloud here, some persistent damp weather for the far north and northwest, but milder for the northwest of Scotland, 10 Celsius here, whilst it's a cold afternoon further south, especially where any of that persistent fog remains. Temperatures struggling out of the low single figures where that happens. And the fog quickly reforming overnight, with eastern England signalled as being the, well, favoured spot, I should say, for some of the worst visibility by the start of the weekend. Low cloud more likely for South Wales, southwest England. Perhaps frost-free here. In between, some sunshine, but certainly a cold start once again across a large part of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing a bit more of a breeze and areas of clouds, so generally fog and frost-free here, but a lot of cloud and some showery rain into the northwest later. Whilst England and Wales stay generally quite gloomy, some brighter spells, but in a few spots, particularly eastern England, the mist and fog could last all day. And again, where that happens, it will feel on the chilly side. Sunday brings brighter skies to northern parts of the UK, staying generally cloudy and misty further south. Monday sees mixed conditions for many, but for most, it's looking rather dry.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Here to review the newspapers this morning, I'm joined by choreographer Kevin Adams and journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon. And a breaking story, of course, that Novak Djokovic's visa, which was cancelled and then uncancelled, has been
cancelled
again.
Finally, yes. It's such a shame. So this is ruining the whole Australian Open. For me, watching him, he's such an elite athlete, and this is such a pivotal time for him to be recognised as one of the best tennis players
Not the
ever.
best. Yeah.
Yes, the best, and they've taken that opportunity away from him. I don't know how they've gone backwards and forwards like this, and there's a reason they have, but it's a shame and detrimental to the Australian Open.
But do you think that this is a case for an exception? Are the COVID rules being followed? To mere mortals in Australia who have to abide by these rules and regulations, why should Djokovic be any different?
Because he contracted COVID on the 17th of December. So therefore he's still in the period where he can travel into Australia under their own rules. So therefore it's fine. It really bothers me. I think this is more about the fact that he's not vaccinated, and that shouldn't be.
It's bothering Kevin. Claire, is it bothering you?
Oh, it's bothering me. I don't like Djokovic as a player. I'm more a Federer girl than anything. However, I do think it's foolhardy of the Australian Tennis Association to have allowed or facilitated Djokovic to fly the 20 hours from Dubai to Melbourne. And Melbourne, let's remember, has had the biggest lockdown crisis globally, especially in Australia.
They didn't know the Open was going to happen. And
yes.
he wasn't.
However, rules are rules. rules. There are elections coming up in Australia. The Prime Minister...
Why did they let him travel?
Well, that's the big question. I don't know, but I don't think this. You can come, you can't come. The visa was granted. The visa's now been revoked.
You think the politicians are playing to the audience, playing to the electorate?
It's clearly political, but at the end of the day, their defence will be rules are rules. And if he has to return, it might be the fastest return in tennis history of an outstanding player, a world-class player who will have brought a lot to the tournament. I think Andy Murray is playing at the moment, but I'm sorry, I think he has to go.
But he has adhered to the rules, so I don't understand what you're saying. He has adhered to the rules. The rules, the guidelines, he's obeyed them, so I don't know what the problem is.
It's not over yet, because there's another appeal going in. I mean, it is...
But can he play whilst these appeals are still ongoing?
No,
That's the thing.
I think so.
Is he still in the quarantine hotel?
He's training. He's been out training. I've seen the...
Yeah, he isn't in the quarantine hotel.
Is his dad still as angry?
Probably.
I don't blame him. I would be.
Yeah. Claire, we go to the Mirror for you, and indeed this runs in the Sun as well. And this is the whole thing about we stay with COVID, self-isolation, now down to 5 days
from Monday. Yeah, from Monday. Now, this is also on the back of IKEA and Next now coming out and saying they are not going to pay their employees, their unvaccinated employees, sick pay if they have to self-isolate for coming in contact with positive members of their family or indeed positive members in the workplace. I don't agree with that either.
It's pretty controversial.
Very controversial. I do not think that places of work should be prejudicing against people for making their own right. Bit of background here, I am double vaxxed, I've also got my booster. I am very pro-vaccination. I think we should all have them as civil members of society. However, I think that companies not to pay their employees for self-isolating is abhorrent. I'm a freelancer. If I don't work, I don't get paid. That's the end of. But this isolation for 5 days, I think, is a wonderful step because the statistics, the statistics say that people are actually less likely or less infectious after day 5. The US cut from 10 to 7 to 5 days. We were currently sitting at 7. From Monday, we're isolating from 5 days. If it was me, I would actually put a halt on testing, to be fair, unless you are symptomatic, because Omicron is the way out of COVID and we need to start getting back our lives.
I love you've announced your medical history, but it's irrelevant whether you... I think freedom of choice is something that we have, what I've lived with in this country. I'm so glad that I'm a British man and I live with freedom of choice. I don't want to hear anyone's medical history, and I don't want them to hear mine, because guess what? It's private. Because when I start telling you, I'm going to tell you the parts you don't want to know.
No, I don't agree with you, Kevin, because this is about vaccinations, and this is a public service that I think we all have to be aware of as citizens. Whether or not you're vaxxed or not, we have got this divide in this country between anti-vaxxers that I think have actually been vindicated by the parties in number 10 as well, which is shocking.
Well, I know this row goes on. We'll not solve it here today, but this...
We can solve it in the next 5 days if someone tests positive, because we don't need to isolate for a week.
In the Mail, Kevin, this is a story that I think people have wanted this to happen for many, many years, and that is if you're a criminal, if you're serving a criminal sentence, why don't we have them doing public service works like collecting litter? Everybody wins. They're rehabilitated. Their time is being used wisely. Motorways and streets don't look as badly as they do at the moment. So what's the proposal?
Dominic Raab's come up with a great proposal. He's invested £93 million into this scheme. There's going to be 500 workers that will go and oversee these ex-offenders offenders going and cleaning up the neighbourhood, and which is what they should do.
Doing a bit of manual labour.
Years ago, they said it was demeaning for people to have to do this, and
why is it not demeaning now?
Thankfully, someone has to do it, so that's a job for someone.
But is it to do with being out of the European Union?
I don't know if I blame it on the union. I'm just glad it's happening, because I remember there was Naomi Campbell did the same thing in New York. She had
so did Boy George.
Yes, both of them. You commit a crime, you have to go and do the time, and that's how you do the time. Go and clean up the streets. The streets need cleaning.
So, folks, what do you think of this? I mean, if someone has been found guilty of a crime, and should they be put to what a lot of people would see as good use. I mean, I always look at slip roads on motorways and things, and there's full of litter, and dual carriageways full of litter and weeds and awful things. And you think, well, why can't we have people that are cleaning that up and making the place look better?
But why can't the local authorities do the job? Why can't they be cleaning places up?
Money.
Why can't highways agents? Do you not think this is costing money?
Well, it's only
930 million?
Well,
and where has Dominic Raab been?
93 million.
93 million. Where has Dominic Raab been in all of this of number 10 parties? Was he at any parties? Does anyone know? I just think they kind of slide these obsequious rules and regulations through under the umbrella of all these other headlines.
These people will be working for free, so they're going to be working for free.
500 people who have to monitor them, supervise them, aren't. And this is my problem.
I just think it's a good use of everybody's time.
I get that, but it's the actual implication of it that I've got issues with.
I've got issues with people who drop litter in the first place and, clog up. Why do people think when they get to a slip road on a motorway and they're idling in their car, that gives them the right to throw their coffee cup outside and their hamburger boxes and all that sort of thing? Does it not annoy you?
Well, they might have actually been travelling a road with a pothole and they had the window open and it shot out, Eamonn.
Well, anyway.
Come on.
Right. Who is this British-born ex-DJ skier to compete for Jamaica at the Winter Olympics?
Now, Beijing are hosting the Winter Olympics this year. Did you know that? From the 5th of February to March. And this is a chap here who is of mixed race, British-born ex-DJ, and he will ski for Jamaica in the Winter Olympics.
So this is like Cool Runnings reborn.
That's it. That's the segue in. And we've just had the beautiful ice skaters that, Kevin, I think you know.
I trained them, yes.
Isn't this wonderful?
I choreographed them, yes.
Leela and...
Yes. I worked with them. I worked with them over a period of time. So, yes, on the ice.
The new Torval
Gold guaranteed. Guys, see you again in an hour's time. Thank you very much indeed, Kevin Adams and Claire Muldoon. Isabel.
France is lifting its restrictions on some travellers from the UK today. Let's speak to our national reporter, Paul Hawkins. He joins us this morning from Heathrow Airport. Hopefully we'll see him in a second.
So you keep telling me?
We've got any sign of Paul at the moment at Heathrow Airport? We're hoping, there you are. They're keeping me in suspense, much like people wanting to travel to France over the last few weeks. So many people had to cancel their Christmas skiing holidays and the like. And just when everybody's going back to school, guess what? They're reopening the borders, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. And coincidentally, Isabel, very good morning to you, by the way, and morning to Eamonn. Coincidentally, it's the ski season in France at the moment. Loads of Brits normally travel over there. Wouldn't you know it, France have now, they're going to get rid of this ban on travel to France from the UK. So if you want to go to France, you don't need to prove or give a really good reason why you're going to go there. You just have to provide a negative test and be fully vaccinated 24 hours before you travel. Really good news for the travel industry. Let's speak to Bex Steadman from Blue Cube Travel. Bex, thanks for joining us on GB News this morning. First of all, your reaction to this news that the travel ban's been lifted.
Obviously, it's great news again. Anytime anything's lifted, it's great news because there is still a desire to travel, both in the leisure and in the business travel industry. So as soon as bans get lifted, bookings start coming in and we start flooding. So it's good news. What's also good is that we've kind of listened to the data this time. So although we appreciate that things had to get shut down in the way that they did, perhaps, and the travel industry's got a feeling about how things should happen as far as lockdown is concerned, and we can talk about that. But the fact that they did it, but they then actually reversed it quite quickly is a positive thing because it means that we're getting the data through and we're actually being sensible about it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I spoke to Eurostar and they said they were really pleased that it had been as short as it has been. You said the travel industry has a feeling about how to do these things. What do you mean by that?
Well, we're not sure that locking down the entire country is stopping travel, not locking down the country is the way to stop COVID from spreading. It isn't the way to stop COVID from spreading. And I think as these variants become weaker, which seems to be what's happening, it's kind of feeling that this needs to be a way of life now and we need to get used to it, as opposed to kind of shutting businesses down and setting them back up again, because it's really, really difficult, again, for businesses to move on. The last time I was talking to you guys, I was really positive. It was back in September and everything was opening up and the business was looking good, so September, October, November, across the industry looked really, really good. People were booking. Again, the desire is there. And then, of course, this variant has come along and everything stopped. So full cancellations. And now businesses are really having to look ahead, and we're really kind of in survival mode again. And the problem is there's just no support now either, because, of course, furlough stopped in September. So we feel like things are moving on, and everyone feels like things are moving on outside.
Do you still want support from the government then? Because they haven't given some financial support to the hospitality industry. Hospitality industry would say it's not enough, but at least it's something. Does the travel industry still need that?
Yes, without a doubt. And we're not part of the hospitality industry. We don't quite sit there as far as travel agents and airlines and things like that are concerned. It's kind of been like, you need to get on with it now. Nothing's really been said. And that really affects our businesses. So what we had to do is bring a huge amount of staff back in September, October and November. We made profit, but very, very, very minimal profit when we've had no business for nearly 18 months. And then it all died off again. It was going to go quiet in December anyway, but of course it's died off more quickly. And actually January, February should be peak season in business travel. It's very, very slow.
So what does the travel industry do then? Does it just make plans and hope, fingers crossed, another Omicron-style variant doesn't appear?
Well, yes. Basically what we're doing is encouraging people to travel as much as we can, we know it's going to appear, this is the thing. It's just about how quickly and how sensibly we can manage this moving forward, because you can't just keep opening and shutting up businesses. You just can't.
Yeah.
I talk to you now, my business has completely changed. We have to really look at what we're doing over the next few months.
Really look at what you're doing. Okay. All right, Bex, thank you very much. Bex Stedman there from Blue Cube Travel. So, yeah, really good signs for the travel industry, and that this ban to France has been lifted. Many people who want to go skiing can now do so in France. But, still a long way to go for the travel industry on this one, Eamonn and Isabel.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much.
Beautiful
indeed.
sunrise there.
Beautiful,
I love
yeah.
the sky.
Makes us forget that there's actually sunshine out there.
There is.
It is a cold morning today,
Cold and
though.
frosty.
Not that you can afford to put the heating on, but anyway, it is cold. So here at GB News Breakfast, we like getting out and about right across the country to see what you think about the day's biggest stories.
Yeah, no shortage of them today. Let's cross to our Welsh reporter Lily Hewitson. She joins us from Pontypool. Lily, widespread dissatisfaction with the way things are being run here in Westminster. What's the view on the doorsteps there?
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. We're live to you here in Pontypool this morning. Now, I'm here to talk to people about what they think about the biggest stories of the day. Now, Pontypool is a place in Torfaen. It's full of that warm community spirit that, is famous here in the towns in the Welsh Valley. So I'm here at a shop called Ragamuffins. Let's see if anyone's in. Looks like they probably are. It's nice and bright in there this morning, and we've got some luck. Good morning, how are you doing? Thank you for having us live on your doorstep on GB News on our breakfast programme. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and, do you live in Pontypool yourself?
Yeah, my name's Alan Davis. I'm the co-owner of Ragamuffins Emporium, and yeah, I'm a Pontypool boy. I live about 5 minutes away.
Lovely stuff. Can we come in and have a quick chat? It'd be great to have a chat about the day's news, and this is a fantastic shop. I'm sure you can see some of the amazing things that Alan has got here. So firstly, Alan, I think we've got to talk about Boris Johnson, haven't we? It's the big talking point, these parties that we're hearing about, these allegations. What do you think about what's been going on in Number 10?
I think it's not like a football, is it, where like one bad game and everyone screams for the manager to resign. I think it's time for him to step aside, really. I think the confidence has been lost in the public, and the quicker that they can sort of throw him under a bus, so to speak, that's a horrible thing to say, then they can move on. But I think his time's done.
And this morning there's allegations that two parties may well have taken place before the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral, and obviously we all saw those pictures of the Queen sat on her own at her husband's funeral. Yeah. What do you think the general public will think of that situation? Because I think regardless of whether you're pro the royals or not, you will have felt sorry for the Queen in that situation.
Absolutely. I mean, heartbreaking to see the news footage, to see the Queen sat there on her own. If you must be made of stone if that didn't just sort of break your heart. So then to hear that afterwards about the parties and stuff, it's no wonder the public are outraged. Whether you like the royals or not, you're going to be outraged at that. Just seeing a lady who's lost her husband, to put it straight, and sat there on her own.
And on the subject of the royals, with these allegations against Prince Andrew as well, he's lost his military titles, and also that his Royal Highness as well, the use of that What do you think the future looks like for the royal family here in the UK following this situation?
I think obviously the royal's still got a future. I think they'll distance themselves from him. I do think with the whole situation, it's a horrible injustice that when you have enough money, so to speak, that when like they tried to throw it out of court, and then when it wasn't, now they're already talking about paying her off, so to speak. I think the fact that if you've got enough money, you can sort of end a court case, I think is wrong. I think you should face the judicial system on that one. But I think the royal family is strong enough to actually to stand that, and the public can see that it's not the royals in general. It's Andrew is his own downfall, basically, and I think he should stand trial and own up to the crimes he's done.
Of course, there are allegations at the moment, so we will have to wait for that. Another thing that we've been talking about is the cost of living here in the UK. Bills going up constantly. Yeah. It doesn't look like they're going to be getting cheaper anytime sooner. What's it been like for you, and what do you kind of make of the situation?
It's tough. I mean, retail, obviously, it's a different system for paying bills. We pay on a daily tariff, as well as we pay the cost of the daily tariff has gone up, as well as the price of the electricity itself has gone up. Our bills have more than doubled. And thing is, we have 28 traders here, and we're trying to offset that with the rents that we have off them. And at some point, after 3 years of holding our low prices the same, we are going to have to increase at some point, because we cannot continue at this level, basically.
Well, thank you for having us in your amazing shop this morning, Alan. There's plenty more to talk about here in Pontypool this morning, so stay with us. But for now, back to you.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. Nice to see you around Pontypool as well. Excellent stuff. So we've got quite a few places, haven't we?
We've
been in Lancashire, we've been in up at Humberside, yeah, we've been...
Greater Manchester.
Yeah.
We're going to do a map, Wales. We've decided, so we can show you where we've been, and you can send us where you want us to go next as well.
So where for Prince Andrew next? This action that the Queen has undertaken to strip him of his military titles and royal duties. Right thing to do, wrong thing to do? Anybody with any empathy or sympathy towards Prince Andrew, who says he's innocent of all charges against him. So your views on that? We'll give you the update right after this break. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamonn.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Good morning. It's just gone 1 minute past 8. It is Friday, the 14th of January. This is Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and me, Isabel.
It certainly is. Hope your day is going well so far. It might be bright and sunny around the country today, but that means no cloud cover and very, very cold. It was 1.5 degrees when I came in.
Felt colder than that.
Yeah.
Wrapped up warm.
But it was cold. It's 1.5 is cold, very cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, coming up on the programme this morning, here's the sort of things we're going to be discussing on this Friday.
Is the party over for Boris Johnson?
Which party?
Yeah, exactly. 2 new parties have come to light, this time on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral.
The Duke of York is being stripped of his military titles and patronages. That's an awful word to say, isn't that right? We'll be live in Windsor. Plus, we're going to be looking at the newspaper headlines and reviewing some of the day's front pages as well. Your views makes your news. Do get in touch with us at GB News, or you can email gbviews@gbnews.uk. Tomorrow is National Pothole Day. It's a very serious issue. And it really does annoy a lot of you. A lot of you get your vehicles damaged by it. There's been talks of hundreds of fatalities as a result of how cars and bikes react to holes in the road. What are we getting reaction-wise?
Well, Jan has been in touch. She says, yes, a pothole on the A127 near Romford cost me a new coil spring. That sounds expensive. Angry face there.
Alistair says, I wonder how many red lights have been missed, rear end shunts, pedestrians and cyclists being hit by drivers looking down for potholes instead of looking well ahead as they should be.
And this one from Mick. As a motorcyclist, I find the state of our roads beyond ridicule, downright dangerous, worse than third world. Roads are never surfaced with tarmac to the correct depth. No wonder they fall apart, and there were 74 motorcycle deaths in the last year relating to potholes.
How many?
74, according to Mr. Pothole earlier.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot.
No, pretty bad situation, but it is a very expensive thing to deal with, incredibly expensive. I mean, when you look at, it costs, what, about £1 million per mile of motorway road? So that's a lot.
Is it our climate that makes it particularly hard, do you think?
No, it's lack of investment. Because, you know, as I say, when I used to be a reporter for the holiday programme and used to go around the world and you would just say, rubbish, 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 rubbish. I think Germany was good from memory. But, you know, America, you think, America? How is America a world leader with these sort of roads? Absolutely terrible. But we have adopted the same practices using cheap fixes on these things, and then utility companies came on the road. Now, a good idea surely would be, when we build future roads, to build a big strip down the middle which has got a metal grill down the middle of it that you lift up and you put the cables down, and whatever, you're not digging up the sides of the roads, and we're not. Then another utility company comes along and these things are never repaired properly. It's, as my mother would say, a bloomin' disgrace.
Yeah, well, I hope Grant Shapps is listening. Some ideas and suggestions from Mr. Holmes this morning.
But it's money.
Yeah, it's all about money.
Money.
And we know we're short of it. Look, let's start talking about our top story this hour. We're going to Windsor. Our reporter Ellie Costello is there to report on the latest twist in the Prince Andrew saga. Late yesterday evening, it was announced that his military associations and his royal patronages have been returned to his mother, Her Majesty the Queen.
Hi, Eamonn and Isabel. Yes, there were pictures yesterday of Prince Andrew leaving Windsor Castle here, looking very upset after long conversations with his mother, the Queen. It's not clear who ultimately made this decision, but those conversations were followed by that very rare statement from Buckingham Palace. And in it, we know that Prince Andrew is losing his royal and military titles. They will be handed back to the Queen, and he will no longer be partaking in any royal duties. They will now be divvied up between the rest of the royal family. We know as well that he will not be referred to as His Royal Highness in any official capacity now. And very importantly, he will be defending this civil case in New York now as a private citizen. And that is that civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre, who alleges that she was sexually assaulted by Prince Andrew on 3 occasions when she was a teenager. They are, of course, all claims that Prince Andrew denies. But on Wednesday, that civil case was given the green light to go ahead, and that was the catalyst for this open letter yesterday from 150 military veterans from across all of the armed forces. And they wrote, and I quote, "with upset and anger that Prince Andrew still held these honorary military roles and they wanted them to be removed." They wrote to the Queen, and the palace started by saying no comment to this open letter, but by the end of yesterday it did become apparent that it was untenable that Prince Andrew would retain these positions. And to be honest with you, Eamonn and Isabel, for the last 2 years, Prince Andrew has been in a state of limbo. He's been very rarely seen out in public. He does spend a lot of time here at Windsor, but that was after his 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, which I think we can all agree was pretty disastrous for him. But he still did retain his military roles in leading 8 British regiments, including as Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. And in normal circumstances, Prince Andrew would have been parading with them at the Trooping of the Colour in June of this year, and indeed at many events for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year. But that was not the case. They've been one of the most outspoken groups, saying that they did not want Prince Andrew to be their colonel any longer. One of their traditions is to toast the Duke of York at their ceremonies, at their dinners, and many were expressing feeling uncomfortable at doing so because of the high standards that members of the armed forces hold themselves to. So I think, Isabel and Eamonn, this statement from Buckingham Palace has made it quite clear that whatever happens in the civil case in New York, that they believe that his reputation is now beyond repair. And that is a lot to do with his friendship with 2 people, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now a convicted sex trafficker, and Jeffrey Epstein, who is now a convicted sex offender, the late Jeffrey Epstein. And that's what this move by the palace is ultimately about. It's about protecting the Windsor name, protecting the Windsor brand, and ultimately protecting our Queen, a 95-year-old woman in her Platinum Jubilee year.
But in short, Ellie, I presume you're saying that nothing is going to bring Andrew back into the public eye or any association with the royals. And as Isabel was saying, in this of all years.
It does appear that way. The statement alludes that those roles will be split now between the rest of the royal family, and one can read into that means they will never be returned to Prince Andrew ever. It does seem like his reputation is beyond repair, and what will be happening in this Jubilee year as we enter into this next stage of this civil case, which is called discovery, which will mean that Prince Andrew, potentially Sarah Ferguson, potentially Princess Beatrice will be all under going into interviews with Virginia Giuffre's lawyers, and that could be really, really difficult for them as members of the royal family. So it did seem that it's almost impossible to have this civil trial proceeding at the same time as this Jubilee year for the Queen. The two just couldn't coincide, and really this just had to be the case for Prince Andrew, that he would no longer be a serving member of the royal family and would no longer use his official titles.
Ellie, thanks very much indeed. We'll leave it there. We now do believe you're at Windsor Castle. Now that the sun has come up, we see the big castle behind you there. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. Let's give you the headlines that you're waking up to today. Tennis, first of all. Novak Djokovic's visa has been cancelled again by Australia's immigration minister. He says it was in the public interest.
Yeah, the tennis star previously won his court appeal against the first cancellation of his visa. This now puts further doubt over the world number one's participation in the first Grand Slam of the year in Australia.
The Prime Minister's former Director of Communications says he wants to apologise unreservedly for a party held to mark his leaving Downing Street. Number 10 staff have been accused of holding 2 further parties, with one on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. Downing Street says the Prime Minister was away from home at the time.
The Foreign Office has raised concerns with the Chinese ambassador after MI5 warned an agent's been interfering in UK politics. China has denied the allegations, saying it had no need to influence or buy influence in any foreign parliament.
Meanwhile, a parliamentary committee has said public money should be withheld from cricket unless it can clean up its act on racism after Azim Rafiq gave an emotional testimony in November last year about the racist abuse he said he faced during 2 stints with Yorkshire County Cricket Club.
25 charities have written to the Prime Minister calling for urgent action to tackle the energy bill crisis. Charities including Save the Children and Age UK warn emergency funding is needed as fuel poverty could increase from 4 to 6 million households.
And those 6 members of Insulate Britain are due to be released from prison after they broke an injunction preventing them from protesting on roads.
The group are among 10 people who were jailed for breaking the government's injunction on the M25.
Oh, there's a lot going on in the news today and all the Chinese spy things. Why would MI5 be telling us about this? Why the lady who's been accused of this, why is she still in the country?
Yeah,
why hasn't she been deported?
That's an absolutely very valid question. And another question from those headlines that's jumping out to me is if this James Slack, who's come out and apologised unreservedly for this party the eve of Prince Philip's funeral, why has it taken till now, given we've been talking about parties for weeks and weeks and weeks? Your apology doesn't sound sincere if you're only apologising once you've been caught out. If there are more parties and you're in Downing Street, stand up now and own it and get on with it, and then we can talk about something else, because we're all getting tired of it. And I just think these sort of hollow apologies when you get caught out...
Where did the picture come from?
Who's leaking them all as well?
Leaking
Where's
them
it all
all?
coming from? Is it Dominic Cummings?
Well, or other suspects
People
maybe
with ambitions
in the mix
for the job.
there. But, you know, also what is really, really strange that the Prime Minister's gone all isolationist. Somebody in his family circle has COVID. He has no symptoms of it so far. He's been testing negative, but has taken himself out of the public eye at a time when everybody wants to hear him talk. They want explanations from him. I suggest not a good look, not a good advice to be taken away from the spotlight at the moment.
And we will be speaking to 2 people a little bit later on in the programme who were both fined for flouting lockdown rules.
Yes, this is a very good point. This is a very good point. And a lot of you have been saying this, that, you know, you may have had an incursion, you may have been fined for breaking these lockdown rules. I mean, we think of those 2 ladies who went for a walk in Derbyshire or whatever. You know, is the situation now that you could say, why am I paying this? These guys aren't being fined for anything.
Exactly. Not even losing their jobs over it.
So no Prime Minister about. Maybe he fell down a very big pothole, because there are a lot of them about in the country. Tomorrow is National Pothole Day, which is a shame it has to happen, because it happens every year. And if there were no potholes or something was being done about them, then it would simply go away.
Yeah, and look, it's a really serious matter. People lose their lives, cyclists, motorcyclists,
Wreck their
indeed
cars.
They wreck their cars.
Have you ever had damage to
I
car?
have. Now don't ask me the technical term, but I did something to the axle, cracked it really badly. And then I, just before lockdown, March 2020, 3 days before the country closed down, I hit a really nasty pothole and got a flat tyre. And I was luckily able to change my tyre. Otherwise, the garage was closed for months and months if I'd have hit it then.
I mean, at least you're protected by the bulk of a car. Say you're on a bike, a motorcycle, or an ordinary push bike or whatever. So on the line now, 2 guests to talk about this. Mark Morell. Mark Morell is this country's foremost campaigner on potholes, otherwise known on social media, and look him up at Mr. Pothole. Mr. Pothole, he is on social media. Beside him, you see Jason Cunningham. Jason is the managing director of Westmoreland Contractors, who have the task of fixing potholes. But Jason, I want to ask you, my friend, I mean, you're there in the industry, and I'm fascinated by this. Is there something wrong with the way we're fixing them? Because the fixes often look, I'm not saying this of your company, I mean, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, but even you would have to admit, I suppose, there's a lot of them look quite makeshift. Have we got the technology wrong on this? Or is it, you know, what is it? Tell me.
Well, good morning. I think the main issue is there's not enough prep work. The prep work's not getting done correctly. They're trying to temporary fill them and just get them, you know, back to use as quick as possible. So, you know, on
time is money, you're saying, really. You're saying there that time is money.
Yes, basically that's the issue, and I don't think they can. I don't think they've got enough money to get everyone, fixed.
Bit of a postcode lottery. Do you find that some parts of the country, and perhaps then there's a theory, isn't there, that the more affluent the area in terms of the residents, that actually the worse state of the roads, perversely?
Yeah, I mean that's the the case as well. But as I say, I think the main issue is the preparation before the repairing the potholes. I mean, from what we can see, a lot of the time, they're just basically getting filled in and then put back to use.
It must break your heart, Jason, though, when you see, something that you have filled in, and then 2 weeks later, there's a utility company coming along and digging the road up again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a shame because, it's costing more money in the long run. If it was done right in the first place, I mean, they shouldn't have to go back down that issue again,
Right, OK. Well, let's bring in Mark on this, Mr. Pothole himself on this. Have things, Mark, I'd love to be able to say things are getting better. I mean, you've been there so many years crusading. You're an encyclopedia on all of this. Surely you've had some good effects somewhere. So are things getting better?
No, they're not getting better, because if you look at this year, government cut £400 million from the maintenance budgets for councils. And I agree, in terms of prep work, it is about cleaning it out, it's tack coating it, sealing the edges. You've got to have a sound situation to do repairs. If the road around you isn't sound because it's come to its end of life, to be fair to anybody repairing that pothole, it will only last a period of time till the area around goes. There are, as I said, things like the Pothole Pro, thermal repairs, traditional repairs, providing the right materials are used. Also, basic things of compaction. You see many contractors using vibro plates that are designed for footpath and work, not a vibrating roller that's got the compaction level. So if you can't even compact the material right and seal it right, it's never going to last.
How big a problem is this in terms of human lives, the cost of this? Because it's not just about motorists, is it? We're talking about motorcyclists, we're talking about cyclists as well.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case I come across when I did a documentary when I first started out called Pothole Britain on Channel 5, there was a young guy who'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan, came back from Afghanistan, went out on his bike, hit a pothole, instead of going at the verge, went into the road and got killed by a car. And that pothole had been reported by the police to the council 6 months earlier. All right, the family got a large settlement, but it didn't bring that guy back.
Well, Jason, one thing's for sure, it looks as if you'll always be in work.
Yeah, you can guarantee that.
Yeah. What overall, I mean, as we head into this National Day tomorrow, what can people do to help you? I mean, who can they lobby? What can they say? Who can we invest in as regards technology? What would you just say overall to try and bring this situation under control?
Initially, I mean, it comes down to funds at the end of the day. So, I mean, if the local councils and whatnot, was getting more funded for this situation, and they spent more money on giving the people the time to prep them correctly and then fill them in with the correct material and having the right machinery to compact them, they could move on to other ones instead of coming back to the same ones weeks later.
Okay. Well, look, good luck with your work and all the things that you do there, Jason. And thank you, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for highlighting the whole situation once again. And we can only pray that things do get better. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
OK, after the break, we'll be talking some more about Partygate. We've got the Shadow Attorney General, Emily Thornberry, joining us on the programme. She'll give us her thoughts on the scandal. We'll also be talking to her a little bit about China as well. Stay tuned our way.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good to have you on board this Friday morning. You're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn and Isabel.
We are joined now by Labour's Shadow Attorney General, Emily Thornberry. A very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on Breakfast. Hoping you'll appear for us any second. There you are. A very good morning to you. Look, here we are again talking about the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and now whether or not his position is indeed untenable, given that new allegations of a party have emerged inside Number 10, this time on the eve of the Duke of York's funeral, Duke of Edinburgh's funeral.
Not just one party, Isabel, two parties. Two parties at Number 10. DJs in the basement. Grown men playing on children's swings and breaking them. People being sent out for suitcases of alcohol because they had run out on the eve of the funeral of the Duke of Edinburgh, when we had an image of the Queen doing the right thing, leading by example, behaving properly, as she always has done, as she has done since the Second World War. She has always personified the suffering and sacrifice of our country. And you compare that with the way they behave at Number 10, and a culture that was set down by Boris Johnson over that time, where frankly I've lost count of the number of parties that they had, in complete contravention of the rules. The rules apply to everybody equally. That's what the rule of law is about. It isn't just rules for some people and the leadership don't need to worry about it. It applies to everyone. No one is so grand, Boris Johnson, that the rules don't apply to them. And he should not have been having parties at Number 10, and the staff at Number 10 should not have thought that it was okay to have parties even when he wasn't there. They wouldn't have had a party if they thought that Boris Johnson didn't approve of it. But they have just continued to behave in this outrageous fashion.
Yeah, and look, there is so much rage about this morning. Lots of people saying that Boris Johnson engendered a culture that was totally unacceptable. But I just want to ask you about this, because as a Shadow Attorney General, you are, of course, a lawyer. From a legal perspective, with your legal hat on, how is it the case that we've heard from James Slack this morning, the former Director of Communications, who's basically in an admission that this party happened, an admission of guilt, has said he apologises unreservedly for any hurt that was caused by it? Why are the Met Police not now investigating this? This is evidence.
We have been calling on the Met Police to investigate, but let's just go back to the practicalities of this. The thing is, right, is that we've had this civil servant who's been doing this inquiry for some time now. We're hoping that she's going to come back with the results of her report at the end of next week, if not before. And so we don't, if the Met were to get involved, it would simply hold all of that up or may even stop the Sue Gray inquiry. So let's get the Sue Gray inquiry out of the way. Hopefully she will be able to get to the bottom of it. And if she uncovers, which I suspect she will, evidence of law breaking, then the Met can get involved after that. So let's take this stage by stage. But, you know, in the meantime, Boris Johnson has to examine his heart and soul, work out if he has a grain of decency in him, because if he does, then he needs to think about what is he going to say next time he sees the Queen. He's supposed to have a weekly meeting with Her Majesty. I suspect that what he really ought to do, if he had any soul, was that he would say, I can't face an ordinary meeting with the Queen. I must go to Buckingham Palace, make a profound apology and resign, because that's what he should be doing.
What's your feeling, Emily Thornberry, about his no-show yesterday in public and his no-show today? He says he's isolating, he's what's the word? He isn't showing symptoms.
Asymptomatic, yeah.
That's the word, that's the word.
Yeah. He hasn't got any symptoms, but he's got a member of his family who says he's got COVID.
But he doesn't have to isolate.
Eamonn, I really don't know Eamonn. I mean, to be quite honest with you, he's such a liar. I don't trust anything that he says. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to even go on the basis that what he might be saying might have an ounce of truth.
Also, what I would say to you is,
or he might have a relative with COVID. Who knows?
Yeah. But you'd be fascinated to see. You're so passionate about this, and you feel very strongly about it. But there's a lot of people are saying to us, "Oh, get off his back." And sometimes I think this is people saying, "There for the grace of God go I," because they probably infringed the rules in some way themselves. But it's not a like-for-like comparison, is it? Because they were setting the rules. They are supposed to set the example.
I think that's a really important point, Eamonn, is that if you set the rules, you really have to stick to them. You know, they're your rules. I mean, to hear the leader of the House of Commons saying, oh, well, maybe part of the problem was that the rules were too complicated. Well, hello, you know, they're the ones who set the rules. They understood them enough to set them, but they're too complicated for them to understand them and to implement them. I mean, really. But it also goes further than that, right? Which is this. 6 weeks ago, Boris Johnson, you might remember, stood in front of the House of Commons and before Prime Minister's questions, made a statement saying, I have been assured that none of the rules were broken, and I have been assured that there was no party. Remember, singularly, one party. We now know just what a lie that was. So it isn't just things that happened a long time ago, a couple of years ago, let's move on, you know, I've heard that. It's not that. It's the lying. It's the lying, the manipulation, the covering up, the treating us all as fools. That's what makes it even worse. That's what makes us even more furious. People don't like having the mickey taken out of them. They don't like people thinking that the rules don't apply to them. They think that they can cover up. They think that they can then lie their way out of it. And then at the end of it, they go, oh, it doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter, actually. Standards matter. Rules matter. Decency matters. Look at Her Majesty. That's why she's loved.
Yeah, and look, Sue Gray is looking into this, as you have rightly said. Even if she finds that he has broken rules, even if she finds that these parties took place, he can still cling on. He can still remain Prime Minister. Does that mean that, you know, he can still wriggle out of all of this?
So there are different things that can be done. As I say, he can decide that he's going to resign, and frankly, that's what he should decide to do. Then secondly, he can be held to account in the Houses of Parliament. But obviously, the Tories have a majority of 80. So in the end, it's up to the Conservative Party whether or not they want to continue to be led by someone like that. Now, that is a matter for them, isn't it? It's a matter for him, and then it's a matter for them. Do they really think? Can they look to their consciences and say it's correct, it's right, for not only the Conservative Party, but for the whole country to be led by a man like that? I think not. And I think that this weekend, many people with Conservative MPs will be making their views very clearly known to their MP, that they expect their MP to do the right thing and get rid of him.
Right, talking about getting rid of, what about this woman, Christina Lee, who's accused of being a Chinese spy and having infiltrated Parliament? Why haven't we got rid of her?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing that it shows just how easy it is to wheedle your way into Westminster. I mean, we've seen pictures of her with David Cameron. Obviously, we know that her son was working for Barry Gardiner. She got an award, I think, from Theresa May. I mean, it's extraordinary. And I think that one thing that we do learn is that we shouldn't just always assume that someone somewhere has done a check, even if you haven't done it yourself. I'm kind of surprised that if she was a Chinese asset, that the security services didn't make that clear to everybody. But, I think this is a lesson we need to learn.
I just want to go into more detail with this. We've got our Home Affairs editor, Mark White, here in the studio, who's well and truly into this. And I know he's keen to talk to you, Emily.
Good morning, Emily.
Sure.
I just wondered, in terms of Barry Gardiner, do you think that he has some questions to answer as well? Because he raised this with MI5, he says quite publicly, several years ago now. So if he had those concerns that he felt he wanted to alert MI5 to, should he have taken money in the first place?
So I don't know the nature of the conversations, obviously, that he had with MI5 or indeed MI6. So I don't know, I'm afraid. All I know is that it exposes for all of us how easy it is for people to manipulate the Westminster system and how careful we all need to be and how we mustn't just rely on others to be doing the checks. We should be doing the checks ourselves and not just take people on face value.
Best, he's been very naive, though, hasn't he?
When I was Shadow Foreign Secretary, I always assumed that the Chinese were bugging my phone, that they were bugging my rooms. I mean, it was just like one of those things that you just kind of knew. And I know enough about the Chinese Secret Service to know that what they try and do is they hoover up as much information as they can from as many sources as they can. And we all need to be mindful of that.
Emily Thornberry, the paper's reporting that the Labour Party have received £675,000 from Christine Lee since 2005. Will they be giving it all back?
I don't think that's right. I think that perhaps Barry Gardiner may have received a large amount of money, but I don't think that the Labour Party centrally received a large amount, but I don't know about that.
But Emily, where does that money go? A lot of people will be looking and say, right, Barry Gardiner, he's an MP, he gets, nearly £500,000 donated by this woman. Could you just explain? I'm not fishing here or anything. I'm just saying, just explain to people how that can be justified.
So what happens is that you can be approached and people can ask, can offer either services in kind or donations that can help to run your office. I don't know. You never have, there's always more work to do. And you never really have enough staff to cover all the work. People don't answer their letters within a few weeks. I'm not the only person there. I mean, I have many if someone's offering a large amount of money over a period of years to pay for them, then it is very tempting.
Prime Minister's former...
Traded by Chinese communication companies, but some sort of advert was running over you. Really do apologise for that. There were big technical issues. But Emily Thornberry, you were listening to a rogue advert. And Emily Thornberry, Shadow Attorney General for England and Wales. And we have to cut that short somehow. I apologise for that. Hopefully the weather will be...
Hello, good morning. It's pretty cold out there for many of us, a frosty start with some dense fog patches to contend with during the morning and in some places into the early afternoon. Otherwise, sunny spells away from the fog, the weather staying generally dry and settled under this area of high pressure. And it's the light winds surrounding this high pressure that have led to the frost and fog overnight. And that means it's going to stay chilly for some time this morning. Temperatures only slowly rising, the fog only slowly thinning and lifting. Some fog patches lasting into the afternoon, but otherwise across a good part of England and Wales, sunny spells replace the fog. Less fog and frost for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more cloud here, some persistent damp weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News. Welcome back. The time is 8:37. If you're listening to us on the radio or watching us on the TV, thanks for staying with us
listening
before
to
the
other
break.
voices that keep creeping in to
Don't
this
mention
programme.
it again.
Gremlins, little gremlins in the system.
The gremlins interrupted us, but we were just speaking to Labour's Emily Thornberry, the Shadow Attorney General. She was talking about China denying interfering in British politics after warnings that were flagged by MI5 that an agent had infiltrated Parliament. And we can get some more on this from our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who joins us in the studio. So first of all, what did you make from Emily Thornberry there of her explanations about what's gone on?
Well, in terms of Barry Gardiner, clearly she was reticent.
You have to say he's a Labour MP.
Yeah, and a senior Labour MP as well.
Right.
Was in, obviously, a minister under Tony Blair. He was on the front bench under Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet, within that shadow cabinet. So a very prominent individual. And for several years now, he's been taking money, or his office has been taking money, to the tune of about £500,000 from this woman, now outed as a spy by the MI5, by the security service. And he said that he didn't gain himself financially for that. It was used to fund researchers within his office, and that actually he was a little concerned when she first made contact with him, and he then alerted MI5.
But he still kept taking the money, didn't he?
Yeah, well, exactly.
My sources here, he declared those payments, and there was no suggestion of impropriety at the time. So he might be able to rightly say, look, I flagged this with MI5. I've reported all the money that I was taken. There were no, queries raised before. Why has this all come to light now?
Well, as I said to Emily Thornberry, at the very least, he's been naive. Because if he had those concerns in the first place that he felt he should approach MI5 and speak to them, then you would have thought that perhaps taking money from this woman, regardless of whether he's being, completely transparent about this, it's clearly in the register of members' interests. It's all there.
Yeah.
But still, if he had those concerns, then taking money to the tune of £500,000 over the years and employing her son. Until yesterday, until the parliamentary head of security and two MI5 agents came to see Barry Gardiner, her son was employed with him, and then he decided to let him go at that point.
But here's the thing. How many other Christine Lees are there out there? And also, Mark, for MI5 to announce this, I'm just trying to work out what is in it for them? Are they sending out a warning? Have they been overruled on her extradition or something? Are they getting even? What's the politics of their statement?
Well, I'm not sure what the politics of it is, but it's very unusual for MI5 to issue this alert to the parliamentary authorities, given as well, as I say, that Barry Gardner did raise concerns about this woman, or at least asked whether it was appropriate years ago. So why now is very much, I think, a pertinent question. How many of them are out there? I think a lot, because the security services have been very open about talking about this grey area. It's not the traditional spying that we know, the stealing of secrets, but it's this trying to gain influence and to subvert the democratic process. We've seen it. Russia have been doing this, involved in this kind of activity for quite a number of years now, where they seek to subvert and influence the democratic process in this country.
The Foreign Office have raised their concerns with the Chinese ambassador here in London, but that feels a bit weak, doesn't it? I mean, should we not be taking... where is Christine Lee? Should she not be thrown out? Has she gone to ground? Why is she not answering these questions?
Yes, Emily Thornberry said she can't understand why this woman is still in the country, and it seems strange that MI5 would, in an alert, say that she was involved in illegal activities, yet she's still allowed to remain. Yeah. Any other spy involved in illegal activities, involved in espionage, when uncovered and outed in this way, is removed from the country. But I would say watch this space. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if there are developments in the coming hours or days.
Well, we will look forward. It might be a busy weekend. Mark, really appreciate your take on things. Thank you very much indeed. Look, let's have a look at the front pages just ahead of Kevin Adams and Claire Muldoon coming to review the papers. Times, first of all, leading with the news that the Duke of York has been stripped of those military titles after a face-to-face meeting with the Queen. Andrew humiliated, they say. The Express says Queen casts Andrew adrift for the sake of the monarchy. Here we go to the Sun. Thrown out. Good headline. Prince Andrew will fight the American civil lawsuit against him as a private citizen. Here's the Telegraph. Says the Duke of York has been exiled from royal life. Queen freezes out Andrew. Daily Mail reports that Prince Charles demanded Andrew's exile from the royal family, driven out, accompanied by that picture. Guardian claims the Queen is distancing herself from him, and Queen strips Andrew of military and royal roles. And, of course, the Prince, we should say, continues to deny all allegations against him. Right, so let's go to Claire and Kevin and find out what they're talking about next. And Claire, it's you first of all in the Guardian. So the Prime Minister not invited to the Scottish Conservative Conference.
Do you know what? I think my view on Nicola Sturgeon Scotland is pretty well known at GB News and with GB News viewers as well. I'm not a big fan, putting it mildly. However, I just cannot understand why Douglas Ross, who is the leader of the Scottish Conservative Party and indeed himself an MSP, has come out against his own political leader, our PM, Boris Johnson, and called for him to resign.
Well, it could be a power struggle, couldn't it? Maybe he sees himself as the national
Oh, hardly. Leader. He's a jumped-up football referee, for heaven's sake.
Right, so what you're saying, show some loyalty, man. Is that what you're saying?
I'm also saying show loyalty, but I'm also saying, but I don't think you can defend the indefensible, which is, and we're going to talk about that later. However, Douglas Ross has allowed the leader of the Scottish National Party, Nicola Sturgeon, to get away with blue murder almost over the past goodness knows how many years of himself being a Conservative MP and also the leader of the Scottish Conservatives. Now, as a result, they'll be left rudderless. We need unification in this country. We've got far too much division. We cannot allow people like the devolved Mark Drakeford in Wales, Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland, to compound the disunity, to compound the division in this country. We need to pull together. There are moves there was a picture taken in COP26 of all the devolved leaders standing in a row with Prime Minister Johnson. Michael Gove spearheaded in 1999 an agreement between them all, post-Brexit, to make everything more unified. It's all gone by the water now. It is disgusting. Scottish politics, British politics, I'm sick of it.
OK, that is Claire Muldoon's view on devolution. I think loud and clear there. As regards Kevin Adams' view on losing weight, we go to the health pages in the Mail, and they say you can do it your own way. How do they do that?
Right. This is the busiest time for me as a registered nutritionist. Now is the time that people come to me and ask me for nutritional advice, and I give programs for people. There are things that I say, and it's got to be, when you get a diet or you start a new health program, it's got to be incremental, make incremental changes. Right now, we're losing vitamin D from the sun, so we need to find it fortified.
Why do we need to find that? Why is that important?
Okay, if you take in calcium every day, you don't absorb it into your bones unless you have vitamin D in your system. So this is why you need the fortification. Or no matter how much vitamin D you take in, your body will extract it from your bones because it doesn't register vitamin D in your bloodstream unless you have vitamin D.
Oh, it's complicated.
Yes, that's the science of it.
I don't know about you, Claire, I just wish somebody would tell me, and a sticker that I can put on my phone and whatever, supplements. This is what you definitely need. You need magnesium for this, you need calcium for this, you need vitamin D, and you must take this every day, because I don't really take vitamins till I'm ill, and then I think, better take some vitamins.
Too late, yes.
Yeah, too late.
Yes, that's right.
I would actually rather there was an app on my phone that showed me the pill to take to lose weight, and lose weight quickly without having to...
You can't lose weight quickly, gain weight quickly. This is the thing why I don't like to see every January. Every January we come up with these new health kicks, and there's lose weight in 4 minutes.
In general, then, how long does it last then, Kevin? If you've got a client who says, I want to lose weight, I want to get fit, this is my New Year's resolution, which is off the case at this time of year, how long does that actually last?
Slowly off, slowly on. Measured. It has to be measured, and it has to be incremental. The same with training. You know, everyone comes to me and says that I'm a fitness consultant as well. They say, OK, I want to lose weight. I'm going to train with you 5 days a week. I know that come March, I'm never seeing you again. I'm never seeing you again.
Yeah, well, stop telling everyone my business. But Claire, in the Mirror, we talk about smoking. And they talk about the cost of smoking in terms of what? In terms of dealing with it from a medical point of view?
Yeah, and in terms of lost work, because of it's purely down to medical point of view, because if you smoke, you're generally your life expectancy is a lot less than a non-smoker. There you have to take time off work because you're more inclined to get ill.
I get that. But why I'm surprised at that headline is if this had been 1980 and you were telling me this,
I know what you're going to say.
But genuinely, I know very, very few people that smoke.
There are people that smoke, and if they don't smoke, they vape. And then there's the contributing factors are that you start smoking, you start vaping, but then you creep back to the cigarettes.
Yeah, or maybe you're hiding it.
Yes,
you don't. Maybe it's just not socially acceptable to do.
The thing that struck me more about this headline, is the fact that we've had a ban on tobacco advertising in sport, in shops. Even you can't even see the cigarettes; they're all behind closed doors. So the ban on advertising and the ban on indoor smoking in public places has had no effect on people's health, which is interesting.
Have the numbers not fallen in terms of smoking? I'm just curious about this. I understand the effect of smoking will have the consequences you're talking about.
There are no figures in this piece about numbers, about people who are smoking, the demographic.
What would you say in terms of when you were a child and people who you saw smoking and people who you see smoking now? Do you think it was more then than it is now?
I think it was more... My father smoked, and he smoked in the house. And then we grew up left and whatever. And what I saw when the ban on public spaces for smoking, people would go outside and have a cigarette. The demographic in terms of age was exactly the same. I think now there's an awful lot of younger people smoking than ever. They smoke roll-ups. They're less inclined now to vape because of the health concerns associated with vaping. However, in Forest Defence, Forest is the charity against the anti-smoking campaign, they said there is a net gain to the British economy of up to £10 billion a year in tax revenue.
I'm not sure who Forest stand for. They're against anti-smokers. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Are they for smoking?
Yeah, the pro-cigarette group Forest branded claim smokers were a drain on society as absurd.
Yes.
because there's a net tax revenue gain.
There's a tax revenue gain, but then you talk about the health costs, which are long-term, and the implications are so vast, and they're into their billions. And by 2050, we're looking at over 30 billion per year on cancer-related treatment for smoking. Not good.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Good.
Claire, tell me something else here. You focused. This is a story in the Sun about a school in Cheshire, which would have accepted Asda blazers, Marks and Spencer blazers, or whatever as a school uniform, own brand stuff. But they've now said no. We want the traditional. Is that right?
There's a school in Cheshire, and the story broke yesterday. In fact, it's been picked up in a few of the papers. Furious parents of children of this school are coming up in arms because the school has said, we don't want your child coming to school in North Face, Nike, or any of the other padded jackets to help the children fight the cold. We want you to come enrolled in our school uniform. I agree with the school, actually, because I think uniform gives uniformity, it gives discipline, and it gives ownership. It also gives identity.
No one's better or worse than anyone else.
But if you've got financial constraints and you have a wardrobe full of five sets of clothing, then I'm going to have to buy a uniform on top of that that they're only going to wear at school. This is more financial claims on family.
Kevin, there's
struggling.
5 days a week the children are at school, 2 days a week's weekend. If you've got a wardrobe of 5 different outfits, one of them ought to be the school uniform, because that's the one that kids are actually in most.
Absolutely not. If I've got 5 sets of clothing that my child likes and is comfortable wearing, why do you tell me what they should wear?
I think I totally get your argument. Put a counter argument out there. A society that has uniforms, as long as they're not prison uniforms really, or even at that, it shows. You go to Dubai or somewhere, everybody's got a uniform, everybody looks good, everybody looks smart, and it's hard to tell who's better or worse than anyone else, and it just creates a better atmosphere.
When you see a ripped school uniform, you know it's a ripped school uniform.
Yes.
When you see a shoulder hanging off that's not been sewn on by a parent that hasn't had time because of the constraints on their time, because bringing up 4 children, hasn't got to. Please, just leave them alone. Stop telling people what to do. Stop telling me what to do.
No, I'm not going to tell you that, because I'm paid to tell you what to do, and I think I'm completely... I can't believe you're actually saying that. If you can afford 5 different outfits for your children, you can afford a school uniform.
I'm not saying 5 different outfits. These people may have 2 outfits, and one of them shouldn't be a school uniform because they can't afford it. So you're telling me that they're OK now, but you want to add to their expenses by making them buy a school uniform.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to tell you what to do now, because we're out of time.
You pay for it.
Good seeing you,
You pay for it.
Thank you very much.
One more time. You pay for it.
Okay. Claire, thank you very much indeed. Class is over here. Let's go to Isabel.
OK, we're going to talk about COVID fines now. Many people were fined and even imprisoned during the pandemic because they breached the rules while Downing Street was partying day and night, sober and drunk, online and offline. Well, let's go to Andrew Sathivabayan, a street preacher who was arrested and fined for breaching COVID rules by giving a sermon in the street during the first COVID lockdown. Very good morning to you. Well, look, just tell me, first of all, how you feel then, given all of this focus on what's been going on in Downing Street and what appears to everybody else as though those responsible are dodging facing the consequences.
Exactly. When I hear about the stories developing day in, day out, and I get really, really frustrated and to a point of furious, because the way I was treated, in 2020, April, I was out as a street preacher as usually. I'm a Christian street preacher, going about preaching the gospel. And on that day, April 12th, was the Resurrection Sunday of Jesus. And then as Christians, we value very much. And as usual, I was on the streets preaching the gospel. And then suddenly the police turned up and they brought all sort of accusation. They said, first of all, ASB, antisocial behavior, I'm doing. And then after that, they said I'm breaching the COVID law. And they even didn't know what was the regulation. They said it was law. And then I knew where I was standing, and I knew because this country was representing this. this land was founded by a holy Bible principle. So we were preaching the gospel to many people and going on the street, reaching out to the homeless, the drug addicts, the people who are really, really broken. And that time people were really suffering. And just
I get all, Andy, I get all that, but we're in a situation. We're in a situation here where you're talking, Andy. We're in a situation here where you're talking about God's law versus man's law. Now, all the things we're talking about, leadership from Number 10, the laws being made there, and in Parliament, of course, the laws being drafted in Number 10, passed in Parliament. Do you think actually there is a lack of moral direction? Don't do as we do, do as we say, from Downing Street. What would you say about the moral direction coming from there?
Definitely. Now, again, I can come to the Word of God. It's all about moral standards. If I say to you not to eat sugar and I eat sugar, it's double standards, it's hypocrisy. So that's what I clearly see in any leaders I see throughout, whatever parties. So sadly,
I know, Andy, you're a man who preaches love, but also you must be full of anger for the way you have been treated and the way we are being directed from Number 10, I assume.
Yeah, I was imprisoned twice. Fined £500. I was strip searched, put in prison, not allowed to speak to my wife. 8 hours in Birmingham, in London. And when I went to the courts to bring justice, to find justice, they increased my fine, the judge, for £500. And still I'm fighting for 2 years for justice. And I went to the Prime Minister. I was standing outside Number 10. Even Prime Minister saw me just after the lockdown. I was standing I have always carried the 6-foot cross and stand outside and preach the gospel. I was not standing for my justice. I was standing for the rights of the Christian voice, not only for Christians, for every human being. Because 2009, he clearly shared a message in a Christmas message. He said, we are going to stand by the rights of the Christians.
I understand that, Andy. Just we're out of time. We're out of time. Just very, very shortly. That's what you stand for. What do you think Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, stands for? As briefly as you can, please.
I can't read his mind, but the way the way he reacts, and the way he has been reacting, it seems like he doesn't have any moral standards. If anybody has a moral standards, he will definitely react to the things happening. And I'm not biased to any political groups or political movement, but anyone, whether it's Boris Johnson or any leader, I really would like to say to him, listen, we are the citizens of this country, and everyone has to have a proper way of life and a freedom of expression, freedom of thing. As a leader, you should identify that and give that rights and allow you, even whether it's COVID or no COVID. We were the key workers at that time.
I know, we've got to leave it, Andy.
That was the brief
you got
answer.
your point across.
Andy Sathivayan, thank you so much. I know Christian Concern are fighting on your behalf against that penalty that you received during the first lockdown. Thanks for your time this morning.
We're going to take a break there. We're back. We're talking more about Prince Andrew with some royal experts right after this. Don't go away. Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
We're here to digest all the royal business that has been going on, and there has been an awful lot of it concerning you. Let's go to Ingrid Seward now. Ingrid, royal expert, biographer as well, and we join her from Henley-on-Thames. So, Ingrid, goodness me, what a week. So many twists and turns. What have you made of how the week has gone so far?
I think very badly. It must be extremely sad for the Queen to have to tell her favourite son that he no longer has his military appointments, that he can no longer have his charity patronages, although a lot of them were, I saw, yacht clubs and golf courses, and that he has to put his title in abeyance. It's interesting because it was 40 years ago, not quite to the day, but 40 years ago this year, that Prince Andrew came back from the Falklands, a hero. And I don't know if you remember, Eamonn, you probably do, the wonderful photograph of him with a rose between his teeth.
Yeah.
On the quayside, and all his
family.
But
then I'm going to ask you, Ingrid. I'm going to ask you. We get that image and we get all that, and top of his popularity, war hero, whatever. Where did it all go wrong? When did it all start going wrong?
I think it started going wrong when he left the Navy. He didn't want a desk job at Whitehall, but he did it for a bit. And the royal family were saying, well, what are we going to do with Andrew? And they decided, or the Queen decided, the Queen and Prince Philip, that perhaps he would make a very good trade envoy, which was a post that was currently then held by the Duke of Kent, and very successfully. But obviously Andrew, being the Queen's son, was higher profile and could have a bit more clout. Well, he became trade envoy, and unfortunately, his sort of, I suppose I don't quite know what the word is, but his attraction to these very rich and unsavoury characters was then in full flow, because there's plenty of those around the world. And Andrew was, accused of becoming too friendly with the Kazakhstanis. Eventually, they bought his house and paid over the top for it. So it wasn't all plain sailing like it had been with the Duke of Kent. He did everything by the rules. But Andrew seemed to be bending the rules for his own ends.
So often, Ingrid, we hear this is down to financial pressure, but we hear of the wealth of the royal family. Is this all a bit of a myth? Do they tend to be asset rich and cash poor? Because what I'm trying to say is, do we have to look at a different way of funding them, or how they fund themselves? Because cash, whether it's Andrew's ex-wife, the Duchess of York, or him, or there's so many, peripheral royals, and money always seems to be a problem.
Yes, and guess who always bails them out? Mummy. I totally agree. That's a very, very good point, because I suppose at the time, Andrew was only on his naval pension. Yeah, he had an office at Buckingham Palace and his staff were paid for. His security was paid for, but I suppose there wasn't money sloshing about everywhere. And of course, when you see people with immense wealth, and you cozy up to them, a little bit of it rubs off on you. So that is a very good point. I hadn't thought about that. But yes, I think you're right. I think it might be one of the big problems here.
Ingrid, when you heard this news last night, were you surprised by it? And what was your first reaction? Did you think, right, this is a decision based purely on what's happened in New York? Or do you think there has been a summit held between Prince Charles and some of the papers that are reporting Her Majesty the Queen and indeed Prince William? And how well do you think that would have gone down with Prince Andrew?
I think like a bucket of sick, personally.
Yeah.
But
I don't think. I think that Andrew and the Queen have a very, very close relationship. And I think she probably would have tried not to involve other members of the family, but they would have had their say. And some, not that long ago, they'd all sort of had a little powwow together and thought, well, Andrew isn't doing anything. He can look after Mummy. He can, behind the scenes, obviously, because he was already in trouble. But behind the scenes, he can look after Mummy. He can go up to the castle every day. He's just down the road. And that would at least give him a focus. So I think that this was probably a fairly, I don't know, it could have been either way. It could have been a decision made some time ago, but I think it was a decision made quite quickly. And the thing that surprised me was that he was asked to put his HRH in abeyance.
Yeah, very interesting. And look, he hasn't been a working royal for a long time, but will this have knock-ons for those who are still working? The Kates and the Williams, obviously the royal patronages, they come with responsibilities, attending functions and events, opening things. Trooping the Colour, for example, is one of his military associations, which has now been passed to somebody else. It means more work, doesn't it, for them?
It certainly does, but I can't see the Duke of Cambridge, going to open a new golf course. I think that some of these patronages, some of them will just go into abeyance, and they won't be able to have a royal patron. There's going to be far less royals to go around when Prince Charles comes to the throne. We've been led to understand that is the case.
Yeah.
So I think that there'll be less charities and things that will be able to have royal patronages.
Ingrid, but what has never gone into abeyance, or not for very long, is his relationship with his former wife, Sarah. They seem to be genuinely close, genuine admiration there on both sides. And the unit, mother, father and daughters, all seems to be a very tight one. Can you explain how that works or why that works?
I think it's quite difficult for people to understand that two people that are divorced could get on so well, but they really do. And Sarah has held that family together. She's really looked after their daughters and encouraged Andrew. So they are a very tight unit. And of course, this is obviously very upsetting for Beatrice and Eugenie. But she is the glue that's held that family together. But remember that in her troubled times, Andrew supported her. I mean, he really supported her and never lost his temper with her or gave her probably the hard time that she deserved over some of her misdemeanors. And now it's her turn to support him and be loyal to him. And I can assure you she will be, because she's a very loyal person.
Yeah. Well, Ingrid, if you don't mind, if you've got time, stay with us, because we would also like to introduce here in studio Sarah Robertson to talk about royal matters. I mean, obviously the Andrew situation, Sarah, just dominating, but, royal life still has to go on.
Of course it does. This is the Crown, the institution, the firm. Of course it has to go on, and it will do. It will never ever stop. And the Queen taking the measures and the unprecedented step that she did yesterday was in order to protect the institution and the Crown from further tarnish.
And will it do that? Do you think it, draws a line enough to distinguish between the royal family?
Yes.
In the States, there was some report. It was Lindsay. Forget her name, our reporter from LA, was saying that she thought that the way it was reported in American media was that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex would be saying, see, this is why we left the royal family, look at all this murk and muck. But will this draw the line then, do you think?
Well, Andrew is retreating into private life. He is now, stripped of his HRH, stripped of his royal patronages and military titles. So, he is now retreating into private life. The Queen, in her terse statement that she issued, said he will be dealing with this sex case as a private citizen. So she's making it very clear. Yes, he is still the Duke of York. Obviously, he is her son, but we will no longer see him. He's not going to be part of events for her platinum year coming up. You know, that's it. He is now going into private life as a private citizen.
Now, Kate, the Isabel Webster lookalike, Kate
I wish.
Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge here, those whole photographs and the reaction for her 40th birthday.
Yes.
She doesn't seem to be able to do any wrong. How did you think she came across in the photographs?
Beautiful. They were absolutely stunning photographs by the Italian photographer, Paolo Reversi. He really captured this, I don't know, like another side of Kate that we have not seen, a sort of very ethereal side. And they were just absolutely stunning images, and not what I was expecting either. I mean, they looked almost like a painting, didn't they?
They looked like a debutante photograph, like ones Princess Margaret had, and there was a whole scene in The Crown. Do you
Cecil
remember it?
Beaton.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Yes,
sort of Cecil Beaton.
that was what it reminiscent of, you know, a Cecil Beaton portrait. And again, it's just elevated, you know, Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, into that role. She is going to be a future queen, and it's putting her up there with all the other leading ladies of the royal family. So I think the majority of the reaction was, you know, very positive. These images are stunning, which they are. You'd have to be blind not to think so. But there was a few people did think that actually it didn't really look like Kate in the image.
Think it did. You know, they were still beautiful, but it really wasn't really her. And it felt most unlike her I'd ever seen her.
Yes.
She pretty much looked the same for 2 decades. And then when we celebrate her 40th, she looks unrecognisable. Bit weird.
Yes, I mean, there was some royal fans felt that they would prefer to see Kate where she looks like she's at her happiest, which is in her wellies, her barber, with the children, outdoors, getting, you know, like stuck into the fresh air and the outdoors and everything. So I think, you know, there was a little bit of constructive criticism. You know, they would have liked to have seen Kate in that way.
You can't please everyone.
You can't please everyone. But William and the children, their favourite one of the 3 royal portraits was the close-up, which was, I think, the one that was most of her likeness.
Right, OK.
I'd like to... Is Ingrid still there? Is Ingrid listening to us? Lovely. Ingrid, just what I'd like to ask you, I mean, we also talked this week that, you know, Prince William oversaw the first investitures of the year. And whether he was directly involved or not in what happened to Prince Andrew, it opens up an interesting dynamic, doesn't it? Because brother to brother, Charles to Andrew, uncle to nephew, what do you think the dynamics are within the royal family? I mean, it must be hard to keep it all sweetness and light privately.
The thing is that the royals aren't as hugger-mugger as we imagine they are. I always remember the Queen saying to me many years ago, "Oh, I use your magazine as my diary because I don't see my family that much." Well, obviously that was then, but they don't necessarily socialise together and get together all the time. But I think that William and Charles will definitely have discussed what's going to happen to Andrew, but they wouldn't, you know, throw him out. Not emotionally throw him out. They would do what they thought was best for the monarchy and, you know, potentially a better situation for him because he's not so much of a prisoner as a private individual as he was before. I think obviously, I mean, you're right, that they had a say in it, but I think they weren't being unkind. They were trying to be supportive at the same time.
Yeah, trying to be supportive, you know, trying not to kick him when he's down. But tell me this, is he liked? Not necessarily by his own family, but generally, he's not one, before all of this happened, of which he denies everything and whatever, would he have been overly popular?
No, he's not popular. He is popular amongst his staff who know him, and he's a very kind person. And he's actually a nice person, but the persona he gives off is not pleasant because he has that arrogance and that entitlement that certainly people of certain, you know, a lot of royals could have it. It's just that most of our royals don't have it. But Andrew does. It's sort of, don't you know who I am? And he can be very grand. And I think that unsettles people. They don't like it. and they don't really know how to deal with it.
Well, Ingrid, thanks for the opinion and the inside view on things. We'll leave it there with you. Always a pleasure talking to you, Ingrid. Ingrid Seward there, royal expert and biographer.
And a final thought from you, Sarah Robertson, then. You know, the future of the royal family, you said, you know, they absolutely will survive through all of this. It is going to be a year of celebration. We've got a 4-day bank holiday. Do you think that we'll have all forgotten about all of this, or do you think that the deposition in this court case is just going to keep this story in the headlines?
Well, the deposition with the court case, that's going to be coming later in the year, so that's going to be around about September, Judge Kaplan was saying yesterday. In terms of the Jubilee, I think the mood in the country when that comes, you know, in June, will be one of buoyancy, happiness. It's absolutely such an incredible achievement. It makes me so proud to think, you know, the Queen has served for 70 years, and I think the nation knows the Queen has been the most exemplary of leaders, of rulers, and they will get behind her and want Her Majesty to have a wonderful celebration. You know, it is an incredible achievement to have worked for so long. Yes, the Andrew thing will be sort of floating in the background, but it'll be pushed to the sidelines and then no doubt brought back later in the year.
See your face light up when you describe how long the Queen's been on the throne. It sums up how so many people feel that affection towards Her Majesty. Sarah Robertson, thanks for coming in. Lovely to see you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much indeed. Headlines you're waking up to: Novak Djokovic's visa has been cancelled by Australia's immigration minister, who says it was in the public interest. The tennis star previously won his court appeal against the cancellation, and it puts further doubt over the world number one's participation in the first Grand Slam of the year.
The Prime Minister's former Director of Communications says he wants to apologise unreservedly for a party held to mark his leaving Downing Street. Number 10 have been accused of holding 2 further parties, with one on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral. Downing Street says the Prime Minister was away from home at the time.
Foreign Office has raised concerns with the Chinese ambassador after MI5 warned an agent has been interfering in British politics. China has denied the allegation, saying it had no need to buy influence in any foreign parliament.
A parliamentary committee has said public money should be withheld from cricket unless it can clean up its act on racism. It's after Azeem Rafiq gave an emotional testimony in November last year about the racist abuse he faced during 2 stints with Yorkshire County Cricket Club.
25 charities have written to the Prime Minister calling for urgent action to tackle the energy bill crisis. They include Save the Children and Age UK, and they warn emergency funding's needed as fuel poverty could increase from 4 to 6 million households.
And pothole-related breakdowns have reached a 3-year high. The RAC says it's received over 10,000 call-outs for problems caused by damaged road surfaces last year. That is 19% more than in 2020.
The UK's economy grew back to above pre-pandemic levels in November before the Omicron variant hit. Official figures show GDP rose by 0.9%, more than half a percentage point higher than predicted. The construction and infrastructure sector saw some of the greatest growth due to good weather.
Coming up, we're going to be discussing...
When I say good weather, maybe I just mean dry weather there.
Yeah.
Because it is rather grey, dull, and mostly dull.
That's so true. Stay with us. After the break, we're going to be talking about showbiz ending the programme and indeed the week on a bit of a high. And we'll be talking about where we were last night as well. But first, here's your forecast.
Hello, good morning. It's pretty cold out there for many of us. A frosty start with some dense fog patches to contend with during the morning and in some places into the early afternoon. Otherwise, sunny spells away from the fog. The weather staying generally dry and settled under this area of high pressure, but it's the light winds surrounding this high pressure that have led to the frost and fog overnight. And that means it's going to stay chilly for some time this morning. Temperatures only slowly rising, the fog only slowly thinning and lifting. Some fog patches lasting into the afternoon, but otherwise across a good part of England and Wales, sunny spells replace the fog. Less fog and frost for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more cloud here, some persistent damp weather for the far north and northwest, but milder for the northwest of Scotland, 10 Celsius here, whilst it's a cold afternoon further south, especially where any of that persistent fog remains. Temperatures struggling out of the low single figures where that happens. And the fog quickly reforming overnight, with eastern England signalled as being the well, favoured spot, I should say, for some of the worst visibility by the start of the weekend. Low cloud more likely for South Wales, southwest England. Perhaps frost-free here, in between some sunshine, but certainly a cold start once again across a large part of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing a bit more of a breeze and areas of clouds, so generally fog and frost-free here, but a lot of cloud and some showery rain into the northwest later. Whilst England and Wales stay generally quite gloomy, some brighter spells, but in a few spots, particularly eastern England, the mist and fog could last all day. And again, where that happens, it will feel on the chilly side. Sunday brings brighter skies to northern parts of the UK, staying generally cloudy and misty further south. Monday sees mixed conditions for many, but for most, it's looking rather dry.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamonn
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hope your day's going well so far. Eamonn and Isabel here, and it's breakfast on GB News.
Yeah, it's 9:22. It feels about 3:30 in the afternoon to us because we've been up since the crack of dawn. We were also out last night.
It's our own fault.
It's our own fault. It's been a bit of a struggle.
It's our own fault.
But we're almost there. We're in touching distance of the weekend. And what a way to launch the weekend. Hannah Hope is here with us, entertainment correspondent extraordinaire.
She was
and
out
you
as
were
well.
also out as well.
Indeed, it was a big showbiz event last night, the first of the year, Cirque du Soleil at the Royal Albert Hall, and all the A-listers there, yourselves included.
Well, there was the A-listers and us, in fairness.
Yes.
But it was an amazing spectacle, and Royal Albert Hall is such a beautiful arena, isn't it?
It's stunning, and the actual performances were amazing. There was a contortionist, which actually made me feel a bit queasy, because what he could do was fabulous. There were acrobats that was nail-biting to watch, and it was just really lovely to be out again and to be supporting the arts.
Yeah.
And the show is on until the end of February, so people from all over the UK can come and buy tickets.
And
so
this was
it's good.
the 25th anniversary of Cirque du Soleil at the Royal Albert Hall. It's amazing to think, quarter of a century they've been doing that. And we were just commenting that really they were like Olympic athletes. And you know, there was a football segment where there were, I don't know how really to describe it to people listening and watching us.
Ball juggling.
Ball juggling, but like in a really circusy way. And it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting. And I was chatting to Sir David Jason of Only Fools and Horses fame. It's the one showbiz event of the year that he goes to every year without fail. And he was telling me that he finds it therapeutic to watch. He finds it full of escapism and he loves the colour. Oh, there you are together, Eamonn.
Yeah, we both have a bit of manoeuvrability problems that we were discussing there. So we were.
You share the same physio, don't you? Oh, look, there's us outside on our way home. Did a quick snap. Oh, there we go. The full complement. Oh, it was a really nice
I got
night.
that mask. I have that mask hanging on me because every time I have it on and then you say, take your mask off, and then I forget to take it all off, so it hangs off
I don't
one
tell you
ear.
to take your mask off, Eamonn. That would be against... No.
Just for the selfie.
Yeah, just for the photo.
It's important. You need to sort of rip it off for the photo, then put it back on again.
No, it was a brilliant evening and it was lovely to see you there. Look, tell us some more of the showbiz news, because I was seeing this in the paper. Ed Sheeran, is this correct? He's building a tomb for his family in the garden?
Yes.
This is quite American.
Well, it used to be called mausoleum, didn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's actually called a crypt.
Oh, right.
So,
sorry. Yeah,
some different words for it. So Ed Sheeran, just to be clear, he's got a £7 million estate that is called Sheeranville, and he's got a lake, he's got a football pitch, he's got an underground club with tunnels, and I suppose he's decided, well, actually, I'm going to think ahead, and I'm going to build a crypt for it can fit 2 bodies, and it's actually for him and his wife, we think, and it's quite romantic, really, if you think about it. You know, he's thinking ahead, that he knows that they want to be buried together on the land, and yeah, he's just being very forward-thinking.
Do you think that's romantic?
If I had the money in the ground, I'd
You'd
do that.
as well.
I'd have
So
a
you'd know
mausoleum.
where your final resting place was? And
I know
you'd
where
be
it is
with
already.
Belfast?
Well, we have a family plot there, so you know, my mum will soon be going inside. I presume it's not wishing you away, Mum, but I presume you're next in there. Yeah.
This is taking a turn.
It depends. I mean, I'm not a great one. I don't believe in cremation.
Right.
So I would definitely be the Ed Sheeran sort of.
Right, yeah, I do want to be buried. And I think there's something nice about the thought of being buried with your loved ones and being together. It is
very
comforting.
romantic.
I don't know if romantic's the word, but I think it's comforting anyway.
The other thing to say about his estate, though, is that he is a real environmentalist, and he's worth 220 million, so he's definitely got a bit of cash. But he keeps buying land in the area and planting trees, so he's trying to do his bit, which I think is quite nice.
Okay.
You can do no wrong, really.
No.
Love it.
Doing their bit. Britney Spears and her sister Jamie Lynn, they're not doing their bit for family goodwill, are they really? What's going on?
So the Spears sisters really are at war. After Britney was freed from her 13-year conservatorship last year, you would have thought that the family would maybe sort of been doing some therapy together, getting on the phone, trying to meet up, just trying to get back to that kind of family life. But no, Jamie Lynn Spears, her younger sister, has written a tell-all book called Things I Should Have Said about her own trauma growing up in Britney's spotlight and her parents, trying to get her to kind of be a singer and how she actually looked after her sister. So Britney's seen her do an interview, Good Morning America, and has actually gone on Twitter and said, look, you know, you didn't try and look after me. You were 15 years old when all of this was going on. And it's just another situation of my family trying to make money out of me, trying to sell a book. So it is quite sad, really. You sort of think, gosh, just pick up the phone, try and talk to each other rather than make it so public.
Yeah, and Britney's been having these sort of characteristic rants on social media and stuff, and they've always made people question whether actually she is well.
Yes.
Did this seem like a kind of lucid rant, or was it a bit
I think, like I say, it is a characteristic of Britney. I mean, she actually did say she had a fever, so it's kind of a monologue. It's sort of a stream of consciousness when she does these rants. But I do think it's authentic to who she is, and I think that that's just what she likes to do. She also likes to pose with not many clothes on.
I know.
She's very proud of her body.
Well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, why not?
But this is authentic to Britney.
Very good. Hannah, thank you very much indeed, despite
thank you.
your night out working last night and, coming
Looking
in
perky
here.
for it.
Doing
Thank
your
you.
duty, doing all of that. Guys, thank you very much indeed for staying with us. This is the end of our second week on air. We're on Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel here in GB News. Appreciate you listening and watching.
Yeah, it's been a really busy news morning, and it's not going to stop, I'm sure, throughout the day. Tom Harwood is up next with the briefing. Don't go anywhere, but first, here's your forecast.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good weekend.
Hello, good morning. It's pretty cold out there for many of us, a frosty start with some dense fog patches to contend with during the morning and in some places into the early afternoon. Otherwise, sunny spells away from the fog, the weather staying generally dry and settled under this area of high pressure, but it's the light winds surrounding this high pressure that have led to the frost and fog overnight. And that means it's going to stay chilly for some time this morning. Temperatures only slowly rising, the fog only slowly thinning and lifting. Some fog patches lasting into the afternoon, but otherwise across a good part of England and Wales, sunny spells replace the fog. Less fog and frost for Scotland and Northern Ireland, more cloud here, some persistent damp weather for the far north and northwest, but milder for the northwest of Scotland, 10 Celsius here, whilst it's a cold afternoon further south, especially where any of that persistent fog remains. Temperatures struggling out of the low single figures where that happens. And the fog quickly reforming overnight, with eastern England signalled as being the, well, favoured spot, I should say, for some of the worst visibility by the start of the weekend. Low cloud more likely for South Wales, southwest England. Perhaps frost-free here, in between some sunshine, but certainly a cold start once again across a large part of England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing a bit more of a breeze and areas of cloud, so generally fog and frost-free here, but a lot of cloud and some showery rain into the northwest later. Whilst England and Wales stay generally quite gloomy, some brighter spells, but in a few spots, particularly eastern England, the mist and fog could last all day. And again, where that happens, it will feel on the chilly side. Sunday brings brighter skies to northern parts of the UK, staying generally cloudy and misty further south. Monday sees mixed conditions for many, but for most, it's looking rather dry.